You know, life has a way of surprising us. We've all had unexpected moments that really end up impacting who we are. I'm Chavie Brooke, and let me tell you, I've had my fair share of these moments. On Totally Unexpected, I don't just interview my guests. We have long, meaningful conversations to explore the twists and the turns that change their lives. You won't only be hearing from the guest, you'll be hearing from me and my thoughts and reflections, just as I would be doing in real life. These aren't traditional interviews, they're conversations about struggle, growth, and the moments that make us human. We all just want to feel connected, at least I do. And if we end up feeling a little less alone, that would make me so happy. Welcome back to Totally Unexpected. Guys, bar mitzvah was last week. It's done. It's over. It was incredible. It's my first time back in the recording studio since the bar mitzvah. Big, huge life event. I couldn't have asked for it to be better. It really exceeded all expectations. The energy was amazing. The joy, the support. It was just, I'm so, so grateful. Definitely had a little bit of a crash this week. My body is like, okay, you need to rest now. But that hasn't happened yet. We're working on it. We're working on it. But all to say, I don't know how much longer do I get to talk about the bar mitzvah. I don't know. I'm going to try to stop, but it was so good. This week's episode is very exciting. Before I even introduce the guest, I have a couple things I want to remind you and share with you. First of all, episodes drop every other Monday, so stay tuned for that. This last episode was with Dasi. Great episode. We actually took the hot take question from the episode. It usually works that way. It usually is that we have something that we take from a previous episode that we want to discuss. So this week, hot take is, are you a hospital mama or a home birth girl? Stay tuned for the discussion at the end of this episode. Substack is released every Tuesday. This week, I posted an older essay on Mother's Day. I spoke about the 5 things that I learned from my mother. Obviously, 5 of many, but I focused on 5. Mother's Day is tricky. It's fascinating to me how something that was made up, and it's not like a religious holiday, but it became such a big deal and it became so loaded, and everybody likes to navigate it differently. And I think everyone is entitled to celebrate Mother's Day as they wish. Bonus points is if you just have in mind sensitivity and other people's experiences, which I can definitely relate to. But it was a really nice reflection. It's nice to think about, I know Mother's Day is every day and we have to respect our mother all the time, yada, yada, yada. But it is nice to have an intentional day to focus on what you appreciate about your mother, or reflect on how you want to be a mother, or reflect on anything that comes up for you on Mother's Day. It's okay to sit with it, even if it's uncomfortable and it's painful. Maybe look at it as a time for you to sit in your grief, if that's what Mother's Day brings up for you. So that was this last post. Go check it out on Substack. And without further ado, the guest this week is none other than Aimee Baron. Aimee is a good friend that I've never met in person, but is still a very good friend. I've been on her podcast multiple times, and I am so delighted that she is finally on the other side of the mic and gets to be a guest on my podcast. Aimee is the founder and director of I Was Supposed to Have a Baby. So if you have not heard of this organization, it is worth knowing about. It is an organization and a community that cares for anyone struggling with fertility, pregnancy loss, mental health support in connection to pregnancy or infertility, resources, support groups. They have a podcast. They just reached 200 episodes on their podcast. And it has become such an amazing resource for the fertility space. If you don't struggle with infertility or loss or miscarriage or any of those things, I 100% guarantee you know someone that does. So oftentimes it's just really nice to be aware of the resources out there. And I was supposed to have a baby specifically also helps inform and share to other people how to show up for people who are struggling in this stage of their life. Before Aimee became the director and started this organization, she was a pediatrician. She was an attending pediatrician in the neonatal intensive care unit in St. Luke's Hospital. And she was also the director and had a very big role in the growth of NechamaComfort. So very cool person. Aimee shares her own story with her experience through secondary infertility and miscarriages and how she started this organization and what motivated her to be in this space. But we, of course, in good old-fashioned, totally unexpected fashion, we talk about all sorts of things. And it is a really incredible conversation, and I'm really excited for you to listen. So enjoy and stay tuned for the outro at the end. It's going to be fun. If you want to sponsor, please reach out. I think it's not a secret that podcasts are funded through sponsorships and advertisements. There's no secret way to go about it. And I would love to partner with all of you and any of you. Please reach out. All my contact information is in the show notes. And we're very grateful to all our partnerships and all our sponsorships. We're both like doing early morning, out of our comfort zone. I have to leave the house 7:45 to get Cece to school. And then I came straight here. So I had to get up early to like be dressed and ready. But so worth it because I am so excited to be with you here on the other side. Like I get to interview you finally.
By the way, no joke. Right before this, I actually just posted on Instagram on a story saying,
oh, really?
There is only one person, well, basically one person who could get me like in a full face of makeup and a shaitel this early in the morning, because normally like I'm in my pajamas pretty much most of the day because I work from home. Right. I was like, and that's Chavie.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so honored and touched. It's very mutual. Also, I'm like 8:30 in the morning. Okay, we could do this. Seriously. You're
8:30, I'm 10:30, even 10:30, because I start my work day usually around 10-ish, but like I don't actually get dressed, to be clear.
100%. I always joke that like my ideal start time of the day would be 10:30. I am so slow in the morning. I'm so cranky. I'm not like at my best. I mean, of course, today I am.
Of course.
But in general, it is not my favorite time. And it's just like, wouldn't it be nice if we could just like start our day when we felt like it?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm definitely not a morning person, but I'm also definitely not an evening person. Like my husband can stay up till like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, like with no problem. I was always that person that was like, I need to be in bed by midnight. And then like, I'll wake up at 6 or 7 just because like, I need to kind of like, I need to get up and start moving, but not because I actually want to be up at that time, but I can't really push myself to go longer. We'll talk about though.
Yes.
I had to adjust a little bit. We'll talk about that later.
Yes. I'm excited to go there. My husband always laughs at me. He's like, your ideal time is like 11 to 5. And then don't talk to her at night and don't talk to her in the morning. I'm like, wow, that makes me sound real great. I end up staying up late because I like the quiet time in the house. Like I like when I need my alone time. I like when everybody's sleeping and then I just get to exist by myself.
I was going to say, welcome to my, yes. I'd
We'll
much
get there.
prefer, correct. I'd much prefer to stay up later as opposed to waking up earlier. So yes,
100%. 100%. Okay. So this is really fun because I've been interviewed by you multiple times and it's always like, I'm very mutual. Like I will always say yes to you. Like Aimee calls, I'm like, whatever you want, Aimee, I will do it. And now I finally get a chance to talk to you and hear your story and pick your brain for your thoughts instead of the other way around. And I just am very excited and I feel so honored to be able to do that. So thank you for being here.
I think you and I are in the business, so to speak, of working with people, right?
Yes.
And we have the ability to talk with lots of different kinds of people and connect with lots of different kinds of people. But there's a difference between connecting and like feeling seen by the other person. And the reason why I ask you so often to come and speak is because even though you and I don't have the same fertility journey, there's so much truth, in my opinion, about what you share about struggle and pain and grief that, look, at the end of the day,
it's universal.
It's universal, but also I see myself in it.
Yeah.
And I feel on some level, like I know you say this a lot, and sometimes I like people like make fun of me. They say like, I call people like my dear friend so-and-so. And everyone's like, how many dear friends do you have? I'm like, I have a lot of dear friends. Like, right? So you are one of my dear friends. And
correct.
It's crazy to me that we have never met in real life.
Never met in person.
Right.
It's insane to me as well, but truly like soul connection.
Totally.
And there's that, like you said, that understanding that to be seen, to be heard, to understand each other so deeply, even though we have such different stories. What I like to say all the time is that we have all these different manifestations of a struggle and a pain point, and there's different iterations, but there's that common core of having to do something really hard or having to do something that you didn't expect or having to do something that you don't want to. There's commonality in that, even if it's different stories.
Totally.
So, we're not all that different at the end of the day.
Correct. Which is why our relationship and so much of really what you say resonates with people at large, clearly.
Yeah. Okay. So you kind of started from the ground up, this organization. I was supposed to have a baby. But before we even get there, I want to get to know Aimee like way before this all happened and how it led you to where you are today. Were you born and raised in like the tri-state area?
I was.
Okay.
This sometimes shocks people.
Yeah.
Or maybe it doesn't, depending on, how well you know me.
Yeah.
But I was born in Lakewood, actually.
Okay.
Immediately when I say that, people make a lot of assumptions about who I am and where I come from and my family.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you that they're all wrong.
I love it. I love when like we can turn things on its head.
So I grew up in Lakewood. I was born in Lakewood and grew up in Lakewood. And I was there really through the end of high school. My parents are not religious. They are very traditional, but Lakewood, for those of you who don't know, Lakewood now and even back in the, I don't even know when the yeshiva community really started. Someone asked me that recently and I didn't have an answer. I should have an answer, but maybe someone will figure this out and put it in the show notes or something like that.
Perfect.
My grandparents, my mother's parents were Holocaust survivors from Poland. They met after the war in a DP camp. They were distantly related and they came over to America. And they were in Brooklyn for a couple of years and then moved to Lakewood and had a chicken farm there.
No way.
It's a crazy thing.
That's incredible. That sounds like a Montana story.
Right, exactly. So Lakewood and another town in New Jersey called Vineland were known for these chicken farms. And they moved there along with a number of their other friends who were survivors. And a bunch of them had chicken farms. So my mother grew up in Lakewood. And then when my mother got married, we lived in Lakewood. But what's interesting is that one side was from before the war. The other side was not. And
Interesting.
my understanding I was very close to my grandparents, but they really did not speak at all about their experiences. It's a very long and deep and tortured story, which we can talk about at another time. But my mother says that they really, when they came to America, they kind of wanted to shed all of that.
Yeah.
But they seemed to kind of maintain some pieces. Like I heard that they initially kept kosher, but then my grandfather got some kind of medical diagnosis where they said his heart wasn't great. And so my grandmother started giving him more healthy things. I don't really remember. I don't know. For some reason, that was in contrast, like it being kosher and having this new diet was not consistent for whatever reason. And they kind of
dropped it.
They gave it up, so to speak, for health reasons.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about all of this is that when my mother is one of two, and my mother was the oldest. And the way the story goes was that the local modern Orthodox rabbi would go out to all of these farms and he would try to convince the parents to send their kids to day school, to this like modern Orthodox day school.
Wow,
and these families, like my grandparents, really didn't want anything to do with community, didn't want anything to do with Judaism. And they had to be like really convinced. And it ended up that they did end up sending my mother to this day school that existed in Lakewood that I ended up going to afterwards.
No way.
But even to the point, like it's an interesting story that my mother didn't know, my mother's name is Sabina, and she didn't know her Hebrew name. And when she came to school, they said, well, what's your name?
Yeah.
And when they said Sabina, they said, oh, okay, your name is Shoshana. So
no way. They just gave her a name.
They just like gave her a name. And it wasn't until my husband and I were married for a number of years. Like I always thought my Hebrew name is Abigail Yocheved. So I always thought that I was Abigail Yocheved Bas Shoshana.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until like my husband and I we were sitting around the table with my parents and we were just discussing like names and origins and like where they were from and whatever. And then my mother says, oh yeah, my name is Sasha Riza. And all of us were like, what? What are you talking about? Like, we thought your name was Shoshana. She's like, no, that's the name they gave me in school. That's not my real name. We were like, what? Like, we've been davening with the wrong name all these years. Like, it was just like, it was so wild.
But what does she go by?
So she goes by Sabina. She goes by Sabina, her English name.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until, and then we like went into this whole like investigation. Was her ketubah, whatever. This is like a whole, like, we don't need to go into this now. But the point being that, my mother grew up in this, in this environment where Judaism was important, but being religious, so to speak, wasn't important.
Right.
But they also went to this, 3 times a year, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. They went to this modern Orthodox shul. And my mother married my father. My father came from a Reform family, an American Reform family.
Okay.
It's a very sweet story. His parents were the photographer for my uncle's bar mitzvah, my mother's brother. And he saw my mother.
Spotted.
And then, blah, blah, blah. Like that was
That's
the story.
Very sweet.
Before the internet, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And they stayed in Lakewood. My mother was very close with her parents. And we lived right across the street from my grandparents.
Wow.
And I went to the same modern Orthodox school. But Lakewood was changing in that the town was becoming more and more and more yeshivish because the community was growing and growing and growing. My parents didn't feel comfortable there anymore. And unfortunately, my grandmother died when I was in 8th grade, and then my grandfather in high school. And my parents then moved out to a town a little bit further north to a place called Manalapan, which had a very strong Jewish community, but not necessarily
not religious. Yeah.
But for me, your main question was, how did I become from, or what was my background like?
Yeah.
I was always very struck by the environment in Lakewood and all of my friends' families and going to their houses for Shabbos and celebrating Chagim. And I always felt like a little bit of an outsider, to be honest, because we didn't celebrate that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we lit Shabbos candles and, Hanukkah and Pesach were important, but not, to the letter of the law. I mean, I grew up eating shrimp and lobster and bacon and but there was a point where it was incongruous, right? I was learning in school that I shouldn't be doing these things, and yet I was doing them at home. So at some point in 8th grade, I basically stopped eating treif,
just kind of on your own. Yeah. You're like
just
okay.
on my own, it just didn't feel right. Still going out, but I'm not going to eat momish treif. And I kind of had this idea in my head, when I get older and when I'm independent, I will kind of figure this out. It really struck me that Judaism is something that has survived throughout the generations for thousands and thousands of years. And I saw the beauty in what I learned in school and in my friends' homes. And it just was I need to figure this out and learn more.
Yeah.
And I was also very involved in NCSY throughout elementary school and in high school. And it kind of dawned on me when we moved to Manalapan. I went from this modern Orthodox school. I completed 8th grade there. And then I went for 1 year to this modern Orthodox high school called Hillel in Deal, New Jersey. And then I transferred to public school.
Wow. What was that like in 10th grade?
It was really strange.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was really strange. I was always an honors student, and I kind of in that honors track, I had 400 kids in my high school class, graduating class. And that honors track, there were kind of the cool kids and the nerdy kids. So I just kind of fixated and attached myself to the nerdy kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they were nice and they were kind and they were welcoming. And
was it just less pressure? What made you go that direction and not try to be part of the cool kid club?
Because no one else talked to me.
Okay.
Honestly, right? No one else talked to me.
That's fair.
I was not cool. To be clear, I don't think I've ever been cool in my entire life. So, they were just so kind, and some of them were Jewish and some of them were not Jewish. And I always thought to myself, right, when I get to college, I'll be independent and then I can kind of figure it out.
Right.
And there was this moment in time where it was my senior year. It was around this time of year. It was sometime in the spring. And it kind of just one day struck me that nobody was forcing me to go out on Friday night. If I didn't want to go to the movies,
have to
go out to dinner, I didn't have to. I could start keeping Shabbos in my own way based on whatever I had learned. And who would tell me that I was crazy? In fact, everybody told me I was crazy, and my parents couldn't even understand what I was doing. And I was like, no, I don't want to go out. They would be watching TV often. And I was like, yeah, no, I'll just be here reading a book. And what was even more, I think, interesting was that our prom, we had a junior prom and a senior prom. And so the junior prom I didn't go to because the only person who asked me was actually someone who was not Jewish. And I was like, I'm not going. I could never date a non-Jew. I date or even go to a dance.
Where did that come from?
My parents, and also I think just the environment and the school and NCSY, even though I wasn't going to date him, but just even being out with him it just felt wrong. And I was like, I can't go. Mm-hmm. But then my senior year, we were all kind of our nerdy clique. The plan was all of us to kind of go together, but it was on a Friday night. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going. And they're like, what? This is a once in a lifetime experience. You're never going to have anything like this ever again. You're going to look back on it with regret. And I'm like, I decided I was keeping Shabbos. I'm not doing this. I got so much pressure and they totally didn't understand. And I have no regrets, frankly, and didn't even have any regrets then.
Right. But I just find it really kind of striking that I guess that's part of the reason, because no one was forcing you. So it was coming from yourself. But to have this really strong inner knowing that this is what you wanted to do, and then still Because when you're kind of doing it on your own and you're like, I'm going to do this in my own way, when something really big comes along, it's kind of easy to justify or kind of be like, okay, like this one time, or I'm not really doing it anyway all the way. So like I can just do this thing. And I find it like, you're saying you're not a cool kid, but I find that very cool.
Okay, but like cool in a different way, right? But I think it actually kind of speaks to who I am, who I was then and who I still am. Like when I have an idea, when I think that something is right or I believe in something deeply, that's going to be who I am. Like there isn't going to be anything that's going to dissuade me from
such a gift,
that decision or that moment or
that conviction or
experience, whatever it is. Yeah.
When you talk about like going to a school that had one set of values and then, living at home, which it was a completely different experience. I think about this so much because we actually experienced this in the opposite way. So we're living a Torah value life and my kids are going to public school and it's a completely different experience. And on the one hand, it works for us. Like this is what our family needs to do. This is the path that we're on with all the ups and the downs. And I'm also noticing, first of all, every child is different, truly.
Without question.
As they get older, and every one of my kids had a very different trajectory in their schooling, like where they went to school and when they went away from home and all of that. But with my son, Menny, who's turning 13 soon, having bar mitzvah, I'm noticing the conflict so much more. And maybe because he's a boy, but I'm seeing that it is really hard to not have consistency or not have a kind of unified experience. Like, oh, it's one way in school and another way at home. And even though you're bringing your home values to school, it's hard. It's hard. And I'm like seeing that in him that he had his Hanukkah tefillin, he puts on his tefillin now. And I'm so impressed and proud of him. Like he really was getting up before school and he's putting on his tefillin and he's davening in his way. And he never did that before. So he's really kind of holding his own. But then also I see some of that outside pressures with the girls and all of that really start to be a thing. And I never thought that I would even consider sending him away before high school. But now my husband and I are like, maybe like, and because he's asking, he's like, I want to go to yeshiva, I'm like, it seems so crazy, but I'm like, it might. We don't have any plan. Like we're just still in the research game. But at first I was like, never going to consider it. But part of me, I have like this little bug in my ear that's like, it might be a lot easier for him to have one lifestyle that he has to try to master,
I think that, so I mean, we could fast forward and then come back. But,
totally.
I live very like well ensconced in the YU Machmir world, like the modern Orthodox Machmir world. And for those of you who don't know sort of more of what that is, it basically kind of means that in my life, I straddle this like deep commitment to Torah and mitzvos and halacha, and also very much valuing the outside world and all of the wonderfulness that it brings, 100%. That it has.
Yes.
And trying to straddle all of those pieces together are not easy.
Yeah.
And I would say that in the course of my becoming from, also like, it's not like I went from point A to point Z like so quickly. Like it was a gradual step-by-step process. Like, I told you I stopped eating treif, but I was still eating out everywhere, including meat, right? And then like, there was a juncture point where I stopped eating out at all. There was a juncture point where I stopped wearing pants. There was a juncture point where I stopped like going out with guys and like having more of a quote unquote physical relationship. What does physical mean? Like we were kissing, like whatever. But like there was a gradual progression of what I decided to take on and when. And even in my life currently right now, like we're constantly straddling the balance of like, my older kids have smartphones, but we're careful about what they put on their smartphones. And we've let them have social media when we think that they're old enough
They're ready.
to responsibly deal with it. We can't shelter them forever. My little ones, what's interesting, my little ones are now 12. My older kids already had phones at this point, but we're not giving them phones right now because we don't want, because society has changed
so much.
And I'm not ready to give them phones right at this point. So I'm, there's this constant like push and pull and give and take in terms of what we expose people to, our children to, our family to, because we deeply believe in the values. There are certain values in the outside world and education and culture and so on that we deem are deeply important. My family loves sports. I can't stand sports. I don't understand it. Like they're constantly following that game. And
I can relate.
I like whatever. And like, I can't. All my kids are involved on sports teams, blah, blah, blah. But there is so much to value in what we do also. So it's this constant balance.
And I think that's what it means to integrate and to hold your values and still live within the larger world. And that's what, as shluchim, that's what we're tasked with. You could end up living in a very, very insular community, which you still, I think, would benefit from having some integration. But when we move out into smaller cities or even wherever we are in the world, that is exactly the balance and the task that we straddle every single day. And honestly, like, I wouldn't change it for the world. Yeah. I also grew up that way. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, so I don't know what it's like to live in a religious community. Like, I literally don't know. And every time I think about it, I'm like, it has beautiful things. I don't know if I would know how to do it, because I'm so used to living like this. Totally. And everything has their pros and their cons. And I believe that people end up where they're supposed to be. Eventually, you might have a couple little stops along the way, but this is my own interpretation. But I think Hashem wants that from us. If he wanted us to be, he wouldn't create a big, large world. I think that's what we're here to do, is really to integrate our value system. And as Jews, and you can find value almost anywhere, but also our job is to make sure that we are living a certain standard and holding ourselves accountable and being a positive impact on the world at the same time. So
look, this is the world in which I live. Correct.
Yeah. 100%. Okay. So you didn't go to prom, which I love. I think that's makes you very cool. And okay. So then what happens after graduation?
Going to college for me was, I always wanted to be a doctor. Always, 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 always. And so it was okay, I'm on my path. I'm pre-med. I'm doing my thing. And also slowly becoming more from. It was really, I went to Chabad of Binghamton, who I know Rivkah Slonim. Rivkah is...
I literally just interviewed her. That was the interview before.
Oh, that's crazy. Hysterical.
That's crazy.
Actually hysterical. So I still speak to Rivkah very, very often.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
She is an incredible, I don't need to tell you. I don't need to tell your audience how much of an incredible force she is.
Go for it.
Look, I think as someone who was the beneficiary of part of her shluchus, let's call it like that.
Yeah.
And still maintain a very deep connection with her. She has this incredible gift of being able to, first of all, she's not that much older than I am, which is like also
I
crazy.
know. That's what happens. The Chabad Rebbitzins are like leading these communities and we're babies.
When I was in college, I was like, oh, here's this woman. And like now she's not that much older than I am. She just provided this tremendous kind of steadiness in the campus environment system where I knew look, every Shabbos we were going there and being able to learn with her one-on-one and seeing a family in action and really seeing beyond the from community on campus, which there was a beautiful community on campus even back then and even now, how much more so. Just, it really kind of centered me. And I had many, many, many conversations then and continue until this day in terms of just how to lead life, how to raise my children, advice about, this, that, and the other. Even today, I mean, I have a daughter in Shidduchim, a daughter who is dating for marriage. And I have discussions with her all the time about advice, about how to manage different pieces. Like, I haven't been on her college campus in like a million years. And,
Yeah.
where she still plays that really important mentor role for me.
Mm.
And I'm so, so deeply grateful.
That's beautiful. So you went to college in Binghamton.
Yes.
And that's pre-med.
And that was pre-med. And then I got into medical school in Syracuse, which was still staying in upstate New York, which already like my friends and so on, like people were starting to date more seriously for marriage and so on. And I was like, I am in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York. I need to just get through this. I was kind of actually very happy that I wasn't in the midst of the tri-state area with all that distraction. I felt like maybe I wouldn't have been able to be focused on my work and really getting through medical school. So I didn't start dating until my last year of medical school, when I was doing some outside rotations in different places and got to be down closer to New York City. I was going to say the city, but that's like so parochial of me, like the city.
The city, like there's only one city.
There's only one. Like, okay, so New York City, Manhattan.
All of us out-of-towners appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying.
It's okay. We love it.
Long story short, I went out with a guy that my best friend from college, from Binghamton, set me up with, and we were totally not for each other. But at the end of that date, he called my husband and said, "I just met your wife."
Oh my God, no way. That's crazy. And they were friends?
Best friends.
Oh my gosh.
The story is a bit more complicated, but I'll give you a tiny window in that. So my husband went to Harvard. He did his undergrad and a JD MBA there. And he was very close to the Chabad family there, was and still is. We all still are. Hirschy and Elkie Zarchi.
Yes.
And so the way the story goes was that Elkie and Rivkah had to have this whole long conversation where Rivkah's like, "I don't think he's good enough for her." And Elkie's like, "I don't think she's good enough for him."
They're like,
and blah, blah, blah.
Very possessive and protective. Totally. I love it.
Totally. Well, here we are almost 25 years later. So I think we were good enough for each other.
Good enough for each other. That's incredible. So you're having like two simultaneous paths going on at the same time, right? So you're pre-med, you're becoming a doctor, and you are slowly but surely becoming more religious during this time. Those are two kind of really big, significant things happening at the same time. And you could think that they might even contradict each other by how much work and commitment it is to become a doctor. And that can really be a conflict with, let's say, a religious life, but especially taking it on, not having been raised with all of the parts to it. Did you find it to be a conflict, or you found it to just like, these were things that were happening and it was kind of working together well?
I think yes, and because I was becoming from within a modern Orthodox framework, so still very much, in the outside world, and still very much like before I met my husband, before I started dating for marriage, still like dating on a regular basis. Still, if my friends would go out to a party, I would also go, but I wouldn't necessarily, like, I wasn't really a drinker, but like every now and then, like, I would make sure, is this kosher? Is this not kosher? Whatever it was. Like, there was still very much that tension. But, it's so interesting. I remember it wasn't a question in that, like, when I went to Syracuse for medical school, like Syracuse has a tiny, tiny, tiny frum community, tiny. And the campus where the medical school is closer to Chabad, and it's a tiny Chabad, but the frum community is like 15 minutes away with like, at that point, they were getting like 40 people coming on Shabbos morning. Like it was tiny again, and just a regular modern Orthodox shul. So initially when I lived on campus, I would walk to Chabad and, it was beautiful with the family. The Rapoports, they're an incredible family. I'm also still like close with them and many of their children. And there were a couple of other kids in my class and in my medical school that were from a couple. And I remember it was like, I don't remember if it was Parshas Zachor or if it was like Shabbos Shuvah, like the Shabbos between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Like it was one of those where like, it was like important to be in shul. Like I felt like it was important to be in shul. But in medical school, there's this, like, there's so much material to study all during college. Like I never used to study on Shabbos, but I learned that like, medicine is the body, and the body
Right.
is not it's not like history. You're studying history,
Right.
you could study medicine on Shabbos. I could study and I did, in medical school, I had to study on Shabbos. There was so much material, but it was still very important for me to go to shul and so on. And I remember there was this one Shabbos where one of my friends, my firm friends, that person was not going to go to shul because there was too much. And I was like, how could you not go to shul? Wait, it's Parsha Zachor or whatever it was. I was it was inconceivable to me that you couldn't even go to shul. And so I think I was living this very interesting life where I was trying to balance all the things and doing all the things as well as I could. And I tried to sort of live true to what I believed was the right thing at that point in time.
Right.
At some point, my second and third year of medical school, my second year, I moved out to where the frum community was so I could be more in a frum community during the week because I needed more of that environment.
Yeah.
So I think there was that tension. I don't know that I really could have said that I felt that it was tension. I just felt like I was doing things in a stepwise manner in a way that seemed true to who I was.
Yeah. I mean, that really comes through. And also you were doing things that were very important to you and figuring out how to do both of those things. It wasn't all of a sudden I'm becoming religious. So this part of me now I can't facilitate or I can't access. And I feel so sad when that happens a lot of times. And I think it's really cool that you were okay, this is important to me and this is important to me. And I'm going to do this in a way that aligns and that is sustainable in a step-by-step process, which I think on the one hand, I know a lot of people who do it that way, but also on the other hand, it's very unique because a lot of times you learn something and you just want to do it all right away. And it's very hard to just one step at a time. And I think it becomes integrated and sustainable when you do it that way. And everyone has a different way to do it.
Totally.
For sure.
Totally. I can only say, I did what I thought was the right thing at the time. And I also say that look, my parents were kind of tempering all this, in the background, right? I have two younger siblings. My parents were very identifiably Jewish and proud to be Jewish and affiliated. But when I started wearing skirts, it was the biggest, my mother was and my mother wears skirts all the time, which is fascinating because she prefers wearing skirts. But when I started wearing skirts, it was I can't believe you're ruining your life. I was
very extreme.
Yeah. So just trying to balance all the things.
100%. Okay. So you graduate medical school and do you know what kind of doctor you want to be at this point?
Yeah. I always wanted to be a pediatrician. Period.
Oh my God, I love it.
Period. There was a tiny moment in time, tiny moment in time where I thought maybe OBGYN instead of pediatrics, because I always loved kids. And I thought that taking care of kids in medicine is generally it's a happy place. It's a hopeful place. Often kids who are even really, really sick often get better. Yes, it's obviously incredibly devastating when they don't, but it felt to me like it was the happy place in medicine. And my tiny stint in OB reminded me that actually I was fascinated by embryology and the development of the baby and the fetus and the pregnancy. It was all about the baby. And then I remember
I have to take care of the mom too. Forget it.
No, correct. Literally at my first labor and delivery situation where I was there, and I was the one catching the baby in medical school. So I caught the baby, brought the baby over the warmer, and I was all there with the baby, blah blah. And then my attending, the doctor who was training me, he was your patient is actually the mother, not the baby. The pediatricians. I was oh, right. Actually, I don't really care about the mother. I only want to be over there. And that was okay.
That was a sign. Okay. I know where I belong.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the next step? What happens after you graduate medical school? You need to do residency?
Residency. So I met my husband after medical school. I met him right away. We got married my first year of residency. It was in New York. I had a Shomer Shabbos spot, which was absolutely amazing. I never had to work on Shabbos. I never had to work on Chagim. it was a coveted spot, and I was very lucky to get one of them.
Nice.
And then like, I think this is part of the story that people kind of know about, in that we're very blessed. Like I had my first daughter right away, and then started my fertility story, which I'll kind of sum up right here.
Yeah, share, because I don't know if my audience like knows your story.
Okay, so being in the modern Orthodox community, we always thought like, okay, like the number was kind of 4, 5, 6. I grew up in a family of 3. My husband grew up in 2. I always wanted more than what I had. And so it was like 4, 5, 6 was the number in my head, in our head. After my first, we had a period of about 2.5 years where I just couldn't get pregnant. And in that time period, we went to a few different doctors trying to figure it out. A bunch of like sort of low grade, I call it, like fertility treatments, like sort of everything up to IVF, but we didn't get to IVF. We had one early miscarriage, and thankfully then had my son. And that period of time was god awful. It was an interesting experience in that none of the doctors ever figured out, like there was nothing wrong, so to speak, with either one of us. It's so
hard when there's like no answers.
No answers. I had already had a baby, so clearly things were working.
Yeah, like
I like nothing made sense, and I would just month after month after month keep getting my period and keep getting my period and keep getting my period, and finally like going to fertility doctors, and then with a little bit of medicine like Clomid, got pregnant. We were like, oh, like we solved it. Like it's good. We're good.
Yeah.
And then having this miscarriage.
Yeah. Is this all going on while you're in residency?
This was post-residency.
Are you now like an established?
Right. So let's take a step back. I met my husband my first year of residency right in the beginning. We got married my second year of residency and had my daughter my third year of residency.
Okay. Wow. That's also a lot, by the way.
It was a lot. Working 90 hours a week. It was like, it was insane.
Yeah.
But just very grateful. The timing kind of all worked. And then I took off a little bit of time to study for my boards, and then got a job as an attending pediatrician in one of the local hospitals here, basically responsible for the newborn nursery, labor and delivery, and the neonatal intensive care unit. And it was shift work, which was great because that meant that I could be in the hospital and working. But then when I left, at that time, there were beepers. So beepers are a thing of the past, but I was never on call. It was when I was working, and when I was not working, I was home.
You were not working.
So it was actually a really perfect setup for a mother of a young baby, and it was really great.
Did you love that work?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved being able to talk to parents and kind of like assuage their anxiety, like in that newborn, like we just had a baby and like, oh my God, like what do we do? And blah, blah, blah. Like I loved it. The piece that I didn't love about it was that there was no continuity of care. Like,
yeah, you didn't get to see them out. Right. Yeah, that's hard.
Right. Yeah. Like I never saw them again. So I never knew what happened. Unless they came back a few years later and I happened to be the one on shift who happened to be there. Right. So I never knew what happened. There were some difficult points also, like seeing some really heartbreaking situations of babies not making it, and babies who were really tiny, who had terrible medical problems, babies with terrible genetic disorders that they didn't find out until the babies came out. Like there were some absolutely heartbreaking moments. But it was, I really loved my job, and I thought it gave me the best of both worlds, in that I was able to be there and do what I loved, but also like not have it take over my entire life.
Yeah.
But it's so poignant that you're asking, because this period of time when I was working with babies.
Yeah, that's when you're struggling.
When this started to happen,
it
continued, and it ended up that I had to quit my job. And I'll tell you, because it was psychologically too hard, but it wasn't this period of my fertility story. So, you know, I had this loss. I had a lot of medical complications afterwards, but thankfully was eventually able to get pregnant again.
Right.
We had my son, my number 2. And then from that moment on, infertility wasn't my problem anymore. It was like, it was bizarre. It just, I didn't have difficulty getting pregnant. So I nursed him for a year, the same way I nursed my older one. And then we got pregnant with my second daughter. So my number 3, had her. And then again, this is all while I'm, still working at the hospital and thinking, okay, like 4, 5, 6, like here we're
Here we
going.
go. We're on track.
We're on track. We're going. Nursed her for a year, got pregnant again. And, I had that early loss between my first and my second around 8 weeks. So up until the 8-week mark,
You're always apprehensive.
Always a mess. Always a mess, like just waiting for that ultrasound where I would either see the heartbeat or I wouldn't see the heartbeat. And once I saw the heartbeat, like everything got better. And I was like, okay, we're good, clear, blah, blah. So that pregnancy saw the heartbeat at 8 weeks. And I'm like, great, we're good. Like just blah, blah, blah. And as the second trimester came, we started telling people. And I walked in for my 16-week appointment and there was no heartbeat. Just like out of nowhere, no heartbeat. The baby was perfectly healthy, genetically normal, and there was no medical explanation. Like the doctor,
back to the we don't know why this happened.
Like it's a fluke. It happens. You have 3 healthy kids. Like, don't worry. Just go home and try again. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It's not so easy, obviously. Like there were, weeks and months of grief and loss and the processing and so on. But I kind of accepted that. Like in science, we don't know everything. There's so much that still remains like a mystery. And okay, if you're I trusted my doctor. I wasn't unsophisticated. And I was like, okay, like fine, we'll try again. Like I didn't have problems getting pregnant anymore. We'll try again. And that exact scenario happened 3 more times in a row.
Oh my gosh. So 4 times in a row.
4 pregnancies within the span of about 2.5 years, where I would make it past the 8-week mark. I would get to either 16 or 17 weeks with no signs, no symptoms, no cramping, no bleeding. Everything was perfectly fine. I would walk in for my appointment and there would be no heartbeat.
Oh my gosh. And 4 times over, it keeps like solidifying this traumatic experience over and over again.
Over and over. I had 2 boys and 2 girls. They were all genetically perfect. And my doctors were baffled. And when I say doctors, I mean dozens and dozens and dozens of doctors. We traveled everywhere. No one could give us any explanation as to why this was happening. There were a lot of theories, but there were no explanations. And, with each pregnancy, I became
more of a mess.
I'm assuming. Totally. More of a mess. And, we talk about repeat trauma. We talk about like PTSD. We talk about like it happens to be this episode I know is not going to come out for a long time, but right now.
Not too long.
In a number of weeks. But
yeah.
Meaning right now I was supposed to have a baby in our work right now on social media. Every week we focus on a different topic. And right now we're talking about pregnancy after loss and the tremendous fear and anxiety and emotions and grief and pain and all of the pieces that go on when someone is pregnant after loss, after infertility, after trauma, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I was not a functional human being, like frankly.
Yeah. And that's just with a lot of pregnancies in a short amount of time. And then you're losing them, which is very hard on your body. And then never mind the emotional part. So what happened? Like, what did you?
Yeah.
How did you do it? I don't know.
I'm not so sure I did it, frankly. But
you survived it.
The way I survived was number one, I quit my job. So that was kind of like after, the first loss, my doctor said it was a fluke. So I was like, okay. I'm like, I like take my time, grieve, etc. I have 3 kids I need to take care of. I have a husband. Like, okay. Second loss, okay, this is not a fluke actually anymore. There's something wrong and we need to try to figure out what this is. And yeah, I can't like do this anymore. And there was one idea kind of out there that like, maybe if I took this medicine, maybe blah, blah, blah. And so for the third pregnancy, I took that medicine at a low dose and I still miscarried. And that was like, I'm out. I'm like, I cannot go back to work. Like literally each time it took me longer and longer and longer to go back to work to be able to like sit there and literally take care of other people's babies. It was just like, you know, how much like when you lose a baby, it's not like you can divorce yourself from the rest of the world and you like, you're never going to see a baby again. And you're never going to see a child, like a pregnant woman and you're not like,
you want to go live in a cave. Correct. It's not happening.
Correct. It's not happening. Like you literally walk outside your home and like it's everywhere, right? Walk into Target, the grocery store, whatever, like it's everywhere. So each time it took me longer to kind of make those grocery runs and it took me longer to get back to shul. But like I could do it because it was part of life. And I wasn't angry that other people were having babies. I was just so sad for myself. And I couldn't, like, I would just be hysterical all the time. So it was just like, I was having trouble functioning in sort of regular society because like everything would trigger me.
Right.
But going to work and actively
would be the biggest trigger. Yeah.
Like it was just, then I would see like these 14-year-olds that were having babies. And it was like, somehow like someone's got to explain this to me. Like, what is this all about? Like the 14-year-old prostitute that's having a baby and like, what? Like it's a horrible existence. And like, I wouldn't wish this upon anyone. Like society needs to do better. And like, I'm jealous of her. And this is a problem. And I just was like, I can't keep crying in supply closets. Like I actually just need to step away.
Right. You need to not keep putting yourself in a position that's detrimental to your sanity.
Totally. So I quit my job. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that I didn't force myself to be normal and interact with people until I was really ready to do so. Like, I think, you know, my husband and I talk about this a lot and we kind of like laugh about it a little bit. There was one point where somebody in one of our families brought up the idea that like, you know, there's a lot of research that says when people are depressed, they need to be not by themselves. They need to be out with other people and like interacting with society and like you shouldn't leave them alone. And I'm like, well, screw them because honestly, like I don't want to be with anybody else. Like
if you know what's good for you, leave me alone.
Like leave me alone. Like I will come out when I'm ready. And I think like the fact that I had already had that early loss and also the losses up until whatever point that was when that conversation had, like, I'm not a person, thank God, that has a biological predisposition toward anxiety or depression.
It's circumstantial.
It is circumstantial. And for me, certainly, obviously, there was the hormonal stuff and there was the grief and the fact that my body was like unrecognizable, right? Like, but I knew that there would come a point where
I
resurface. Exactly. And so I was just like, leave me alone.
Yeah,
like,
I just need time.
What I need.
Give me the time. Yeah, totally. Wow. So you had 4 miscarriages in a row. I can't even imagine what that feels like. And then just like also at that same point of time, like I can't imagine what it's like going to the doctor for that visit and being like, what's going to happen?
I don't think there are really any words to describe the absolute fear. You know, it's interesting because let me skip ahead and then I'll come back.
Sure.
You know, after that 4th loss, I and we were completely broken and like there was no clear path forward from a medical standpoint in terms of like what we could do differently. And I was like, I'm out. I literally cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
My doctor, my OB, I mean, at that point we had seen a million specialists, but like my OB, the one who I had, this long-standing relationship with, kept saying to me, he's like, Aimee, I can't watch you go through this anymore. Like, please stop.
Please don't do this anymore.
Please stop. Like, please stop. And there was a point where I said to him, the problem is that I didn't think I was done. Like, I didn't have that like ceremonial, like,
closure.
This is the last time I'm going to change a diaper. And this is the last time we're going to use the crib and blah. Like, this is the last time I'm nursing. Like, I didn't think I was done. So that's the problem of what I'm sitting with right now. This like tension between I wasn't finished, but I also recognize that like I was just not well. Like I was just a real shell of myself, and I like felt like I had to put it away. And so we did. Like we really did. And I became like a functional mother again and wife, and started like getting involved with community again, and sort of like tried to really put it away, and was successful, I think. I don't know. Someone during those years could tell me. But there came this moment. I don't remember exactly when, but we both kind of turned to ourselves. I said, he said, there were these things like I've shared this before with some people, but as a science person, I'm very interested in data. And like when we would go to all these doctors and they would have no answers, they were like, well, we don't have an explanation for what category you fall into. Like we have some kind of patients that are like this, and some are like this, and some are like this, and you have pieces of all these, but like nothing makes real sense.
Right.
But they're like, well, if we treated you like this kind of patient or that kind of patient, like we would give you this medicine or that medicine. So like there were these theories out there, but there was nothing specific that they could point to and say, aha, like, we have the answer.
We found it. Yeah.
Right. And so my husband and I kind of just said to ourselves, like, maybe we should just try one more time. And maybe like those things that weren't necessarily like grounded in data, could we really live with ourselves if we felt like these things were still out there? Like, obviously, all of this is in Hashem's hands. And like we traveled to get brachos, and we did segulos, and we did we did like all the davening. First I was davening, then I stopped davening because I couldn't daven anymore. And like, it was like, I was angry with Hashem, like what, like all the things. And so we tried again. I get pregnant because
you can get pregnant.
Getting pregnant anymore.
Right. That's not the issue.
Correct. And I'm 39 at the time. And we get to that 7-week ultrasound, and there are 2 heartbeats. And I turn to my husband and I say, oh, good. There'll be 2 babies that die now instead of 1.
Oh my God. But I understand it. I understand why you're saying that, of course.
Right, because this is the trauma. And when you ask about like, what was that anxiety like, and how did you get through those pregnancies, and how did you, like, the answer is that I was having panic attacks almost on the daily, like especially during my pregnancy with my twins, like, and getting to that appointment when it was 16 weeks or 17 weeks, and even the appointments leading up to it, like I ended up like, I was seeing a therapist who was like, just do deep breathing. I'm like, what? I'm like, deep breathing? I'm like, you can't tell me that my babies are going to live. What is deep breathing going to be doing for me? Like, I was not sleeping. I was not eating well. I was a literal wreck. Yeah. I ended up actually seeing a psychiatrist because my OB was so worried about me because I was having these panic attacks. And I was like, I'm not going to make it out the door for my 17-week ultrasounds. Like, you understand, like I'm literally not going to make it out the door. And I ended up being prescribed a very short-acting, like anti-anxiety medicine to get me through those appointments, just so I could get through. I wouldn't have the panic attacks.
Yeah,
exactly.
Wow. How many years later, after your 4th miscarriage, and now you're pregnant with your twins, what's the gap there?
I don't remember that gap, but what I will tell you is that the gap between my number 3, my daughter, and my twins is 5+ years, like 5+ years.
So it's not that much time. If you think about it, in those 5+ years, you had 4 miscarriages.
Yeah.
And then you decided to try again.
There was also another like very, very early, like a chemical pregnancy also in the midst of that.
Oh,
yeah.
of course. Throw that in there. Why not?
Yeah. Just because.
Wow. So I can't. So now you're pregnant with twins. And I feel like probably every day is like a minefield.
Every hour.
It's like,
yeah.
Because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah. There was not a single person that we told that I was having twins, with the exception of my sister about 2 weeks before I delivered, because she was living in Florida and she was actually pregnant the same time I was. And I knew that she wasn't going to be able to come up. And I felt like I live in New York.
Maybe, you should let her know.
And I just felt like I should let her know, but we didn't even tell my parents. We didn't tell the other kids. Like literally, I had a C-section at 36 weeks for them because they were both breech. And we also wanted to take them out as quickly as possible because I was so nervous. I was begging my OB, like basically from like 30 weeks on, I'm like, I don't care. I want them in the NICU. I'd rather have them outside and alive than inside and dead. So can you just like take them out?
Yeah, you didn't trust your body to do its job.
And she's like, Aimee,
they need to be in there.
You need to keep them in until 36 weeks. I will section you at 36 weeks and 0 days, but you need to keep them in until then. And literally the morning that I went in for the C-section, I sent my kids to school, did not say a word to them that I was having these babies because
because you didn't trust it.
I couldn't trust anything.
Wow.
Couldn't trust anything. But like those phone calls, we called school to tell them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to cry.
Yeah. Of course you are.
We called school to tell them. And like those phone calls, they were like, what? What do you mean you have 2 babies? Like, what? Like they were just like beyond.
Wow. So was your anxiety immediately fixed once the babies were out? Or were there new anxieties?
I would say that I don't know that I would call it anxiety per se. I think because I was so nervous the entire pregnancy, it was almost like I kind of divorced myself from thinking that I was having babies. And so
you didn't let yourself like even go there
at all. And so there was no like bonding. There was no me excited. There was no like, we don't find out our genders when we're pregnant. We both love the surprises, like purposely. Like I can read the ultrasounds, but we never find out. And it kind of took me a while to just kind of settle into like
the reality that you actually have babies. Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, they're here. Like I think it was just over those first few days when we started telling people and, sharing the news, and everyone was like, most people didn't know I was pregnant. Like if I was home so much that even people in my immediate community, like didn't necessarily know. And we never called anyone who didn't live in the area. We never called them. Yeah. They didn't see me. They didn't know. So we had so many phone calls to people who literally didn't know I was pregnant and then finding out I have 2 babies. So like those phone calls helped kind of
make it real
into reality.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the greatest gift that I never thought would happen.
I'm sure it took time to bond and to face like this new reality. And are you in the NICU for a while also? Because you have twins.
Thank God.
They were able to come home?
They came home right away. They were tiny, but they came home.
Wow. And then you're like, okay, then you're now a twin mom.
Yeah.
Which is its whole set of stuff.
It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, honestly. And I'm an experienced mother. I know how to nurse. I know how to take care of babies, but like neither one of them nursed well, which was such a hard thing for me to kind of let go of the fact that I wasn't going to be nursing them. And the truth is that my daughter, so I have a son and a daughter, a boy, girl. my daughter was the pokiest eater. She was so slow. She would take her time. And like, when you have two babies to feed, even if you're trying to feed them both at the same time, and he was like voracious and screaming all the time. And like the milk couldn't come fast enough. And it was like, I knew that if I had only had her, I could spend all day with her and just like,
take
I
her
would nurse her
time
forever and take my time and I would take her, but like, I couldn't do that. And I had 3 other kids and he was screaming and like, he couldn't latch. And it was like such a disaster. And I felt like such a failure after all of this. I was just like, really? Like, and like, I know what I'm doing. It was like absurd. So it took me a while to kind of let go of the fact that I was going to be in this like nursing bliss with twins, the way I see all on social media, all these people tandem feeding and doing all these like amazing things. I was like, okay, it's not happening.
Yeah.
And so that was like a lot to give up. But at the end of the day, like I was always a very strong proponent of like fed is best. And I would always tell that to my patients in the hospital also. And
now you had a chance to practice it.
Totally.
It's like, do you really believe that?
Totally. All of my kids got formula. Like they all got 1 bottle of formula from the very beginning because I wanted to be able to have the ability
opportunity
to, like, for other people to feed and not me be solely responsible. But I couldn't get over the guilt that they weren't having breast milk, even though I did not make enough for them. So I basically decided, they were born in October, and I decided that I would pump until Pesach. And
that's a long time.
We usually go away for Pesach, and I had decided like, I'm not taking my pump with me. So I will pump until Pesach and give them as much milk as I can, knowing that they were going to get lots of formula also. And like, and then I was going to like put it away.
Yeah.
It took a while to psychologically kind of get on board with that.
I'm asking this from certain things of my own experience and hearing from other people. Were you really hard on yourself with the twins, being like, you have to be so grateful and so happy all the time because of how hard and how much you wanted it? So like you didn't allow yourself to like have a hard time or be frustrated or be exhausted or just like want to scream, because as new mothers, I think all new mothers want to scream and jump out the window at some point, you know?
What are you talking about? I never wanted to do that. That's like,
okay, fine. Just me, only me.
You know, look, I had like yeast infections, you know, like the breast yeast infection. I'm trying to remember. There's like a name for
mastitis.
I had mastitis. I had like a ton of like nonsense going on. We also were like, we moved like when they were 3 weeks old, and then we moved again when they were like a few months old. Like there was a lot of stuff going on, and my older kids readjusting and adjusting. There was a lot. I think that probably the only thing that I did well at that point was I took as much help as I possibly could. And like we had a babysitter full time prior to that. And I ended up also, for as long as we could afford it, getting someone else to help me specifically with the twins, because I just felt like I was being pulled in every possible direction. And I couldn't pay attention to my older kids because I was so grateful for these kids. And like, I wanted to spend time with these kids, but nursing was so hard. And then I was pumping, and then I was like trying to do homework while pumping, while like, and how do we deal with meals, and how do we, so like there was a lot of being pulled in every possible direction, and like not getting sleep, and like, which makes everything like worse.
This is so relatable. Like, this is so like real, like the grit.
Correct. This is just like the daily existence, and the daily grind was just like, I look at pictures from that time, and I'm so glad that we took so many pictures.
Because you're probably, I mean, it's like a blur.
I literally, people have said to me things like, well, don't you remember when I came over and like, I was there with you for half the day? And I was like, no. I'm like, don't you remember when I brought you this meal and you told me it was the best thing you ever ate in your entire life? No.
Nope.
Don't you remember when I came over as the breast? No. I remember nothing. So you're asking me, like, I don't remember. I am sure that I was an absolute flipping mess, but I don't remember, honestly.
Yeah, that's survival. For sure. Wow. Everybody's journey, especially in the infertility space, it's so loaded. There's so much. And I'm assuming that this is what led you to where you are today, because I want to get into that. Okay, so you have the twins, and life's a blur and your kids are adjusting, you're adjusting, and then eventually there's a new normal. And when did this idea of I was supposed to have a baby start and take shape?
I very much, because I had waited so long for these babies for a baby, and I was already out of work. So I made myself a commitment that I was going to be home with them for 2 years and like just relish in their deliciousness. And like eventually they started sleeping. And so I became a more functional,
settle down.
Correct. I became more of a functional human being, like around the 6-month mark. Like when I look at pictures, I'm like, oh, right. I actually remember
this.
Yeah. I actually remember that. So it was around that 2-year mark where I started to interview actually for jobs again.
Okay.
And my old job didn't exist anymore. So I had to like reinvent myself and sort of try to go out and market who I was and come back and blah, blah, blah. And still I was kind of looking for that balance of, I want to be home with my kids, but I also really loved medicine. And someone in my local shul asked me to speak about my experience about pregnancy loss.
Oh.
And I had never spoken publicly before. And yet there was something that kind of like, it almost like sparked this piece of me that said, I feel like I need to do this because I want other people to feel less alone. And I thought that I could because, my first 2 losses were public in that we
People knew you
shared
were
the fact
pregnant,
that I was pregnant and then had to share the fact that I was not pregnant. The next 2 losses, number 3 and number 4, we never told people and then only like had to share with people afterwards. By the way, I had another loss, but
do you find that to be like, I think about this all the time.
Yeah.
Like if you don't tell people, then when you're grieving, you're alone because nobody even knew that you were pregnant to begin with. As opposed to like, when you tell people, like, yes, it's hard to like say that you lost a pregnancy, but then there's, I don't know, you're not like grieving something that nobody even knew about anyway. I find that to be like an interesting thing.
Yeah, I we talk about it a lot. And I was supposed to have a baby, and I think everybody feels differently about it.
Yeah, it's a very personal.
It's very personal. For me, it was about the fear, right? I was so
you didn't want to put it out in the universe. Yeah,
I couldn't. I was just, it was all about the fear and the anxiety. I just couldn't. But the losses were public, and unlike first trimester losses where you can kind of like, in that first loss that I ever had, we never told anyone I had that loss. Like it was
so early.
It was so early.
You weren't showing. Exactly.
Correct. So I felt like I had this responsibility to share, and also because I wasn't sharing the whole story, and that like people knew I already went through this. So I was only sharing more of this story. It wasn't like this revelation, right?
Yes.
I remember in the days leading up to it, like I couldn't like sit down at my computer and write out a speech. Like I couldn't do it. Every time I tried to write it, it just wasn't coming and wasn't coming and wasn't coming. It was a Shabbos afternoon, by the way, the talk. And our shul at that moment in time had done a number of these programs, Shabbos afternoon for women, on all sorts of like more sensitive issues. And finally, Thursday night, it was like getting close to midnight. It just kind of like poured out of me. And I like couldn't stop typing and couldn't stop typing and couldn't stop typing. And I don't think I slept a wink Friday night. And I don't think I ate very much Friday night or Shabbos day. And I got up there and I was shaking like a leaf, but with this like deep conviction that I have to do this. I have to do this because I need people to know what this is like. And I need them to know that they're not alone, because I knew what the statistics were. I knew that there were other people who had gone through this. I knew a couple of other people in the community who had whatever. And it was that moment in time that really sparked all of this, because first of all, I mean, everybody came up to me afterwards, like 150 people in the room. And like people were just like, oh my God. And like, I wish I knew and I wanted to help. And now I know. And I went through this too. And on. And
then you start to hear other people's stories.
Correct.
Like as soon as you're vulnerable or someone is vulnerable in the room, it allows other people to be vulnerable too, I find that when I speak, like that's the biggest thing that I experience and that is the most impactful to me. It's like every time it never gets old. I'm like, first of all, I'm like, wow, everybody has a story.
Yeah.
And if you show a piece of yourself that's sensitive, that's vulnerable, it gives permission for other people to feel safe to share with you. And I think I take that as such a huge responsibility and like privilege to do that.
Without question, without question. I think it was really the catalyst, honestly. I never would have thought before then of doing anything with this.
Yeah.
It felt like it was it's not that it was private because people knew, but it was my story
Yeah.
and what I had gone through. But I was a pediatrician. Like
Mhm.
that's my job. I was connected right afterwards with Riva Judas, who runs an organization called NechamaComfort, which helps people through pregnancy loss. It
Mhm.
had been around for many years, even while I was going through my stuff, but I didn't know anything about it. I had
Yeah.
never heard her name before, never heard about the organization. And, we sat down for lunch. We ended up talking for over 3 hours. And I was like, I think I need to do this. I
Yeah.
think I need to. Would you have me? Could I be of value to you? Could I help you in your work? And she was like, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And it was
Yeah.
literally in that moment, I was like, well, I guess I'm not doing pediatrics anymore. This is what I'm
Wow.
doing
What a
now.
pivot.
It just like deep within my soul, it felt like it was this like beautiful
Calling.
calling and combination of so many of the skills and unfortunately experiences that I had. We didn't talk about, but in college, I was a psychobio major. It was basically like a double major in psychology and biology.
Oh,
And I
wow.
also helped run a crisis hotline in my years there.
Oh my God. That's
And
huge.
there was one point where I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to go into medicine or if I wanted to go into psychology and become a therapist
Yeah.
or even medicine. I kind of like, maybe I like fibbed a tiny bit, but there was like a moment in my psychiatry rotation where I was like, well, maybe I could do this. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. Like I felt at that point in my life, I did not have the tools to really separate myself from other
Mhm.
people's pain. Like
Yeah.
whatever, like people would call into the crisis hotline and I would like go home and be depressed for the rest of the night. Or like I
Mm.
was in my psych rotation and feeling like I couldn't like,
You're absorbing it all.
it was too much. It was too overwhelming. And I just didn't know how to like kind of come back to my own after being
Mhm.
immersed in someone else's experiences and real deep pain. But going through this and also hearing from other people who had gone through this. And at that point I had also like talked to a couple of people, in between speaking to Riva and my
Yeah.
talk, like it was clear like, oh, this is what I need to do.
Mhm.
Pediatrics is amazing and wonderful and I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And like it's that deep from like I hate to say and I also hate when people say, "Oh, this is the reason why you had to go through all the things that you went through so
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
yeah,
start
yeah.
this organization." Like
Yeah.
like that to me is a bunch of bunk. Like I
Yeah.
just like no.
Yeah. No.
No.
It's
Sorry.
after the fact. It's like
Correct.
once this
Correct.
happened to you, how do you want to integrate that and move on? And some people like it doesn't become their calling and their
Correct.
passion. And people like you and me, it does. Like and it's not like that's why you had to go through it. It's okay, you went through this and now what? It does it
Correct.
call for you to like really use that in the rest of your life?
Yeah. And look, working with NechamaComfort and working with Reba, it opened my eyes to how much pain there is in the world in terms of
Mhm.
people trying to build their family. And I spent, over 3 years doing that with her. And I loved every moment of it. And it also opened my eyes to the fact that there were still gaps in the Jewish community in terms of the kind of support that was out there for people who were trying to have a baby or trying to build their
Right.
family in general. And I
Right.
felt like because I took advantage of like when I was going through more of the fertility stuff, like I knew about Time and Bonei Olam and Pua, and then now hearing about the loss, like, and hearing about NechamaComfort, and then I learned about Kinafayim, and I learned about so many of these other pieces, but it still felt like there's something missing. And I think that my experiences, in addition to my skill sets and education, I think could really bring something new and unique to this space. And so was through all of that. That's when I started. I was supposed to have a baby.
Yeah, it's true because like every organization that you mentioned has a specific trajectory or like a specific problem that they're solving. And in your words, what problem were you solving? Like, what is I was supposed to have a baby? What does it bring to the table that was lacking?
Our problem or our story is that for many of these organizations, success for them is a baby. It's you see all over their marketing materials, their website, you see pictures of babies and babies and babies and babies. And
oh my God, I can relate to that.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't interested in success being a baby. I saw that the whole was success being held and supported in whatever pain you are in, whatever journey you are on, however you are trying to build your family, or maybe you've decided, or medicine has decided for you that your family is not going to be the way you imagined. It's that pain. I wanted to hold people in pain, and I wanted to hold all kinds of people, anyone in the Jewish, I can't even talk anymore. I wanted to hold all kinds of people, everyone in the Jewish community, because we all are deserving of being held when we're in pain. And also, many of these organizations deal with specific diagnoses, infertility or loss, or deal with adoption, or they have their specific niche.
I think they're both acceptable.
Niche. Well, both. Many of them deal with lots of different kinds of things, but again,
it's a goal-oriented.
Correct.
Like, this is what we're working towards. It's a goal-oriented process. And I think what you're saying, and my experience with what you do, is it's not about the goal or the treatment or the process. It's where are you right now and how could you be supported? So you have support groups for all different types of paths, like whatever you might be struggling with. And it's such a beautiful thing. It's seeing people where they're at and holding the space for the in the moment pain of it and struggle. And it's not connected to a end game or a goal or a successful story.
Do you want to come work for me? Because I think like you just did a beautiful job explaining it. So, you have a job anytime.
I'm always an honorary member.
Without question. But maybe at some point we should put you on the payroll. But anyway.
I love it. And that is a hole that definitely needed filling. And we're so lucky that you did. So how has it evolved over the years? Because I know like now, like, oh my gosh, I mean, you've really put it yourself on the map. So what was the process like? How did you were like, okay, this is the problem. And then you started, what did you start with? What was the first thing that you decided to do?
Yeah. So I had this like very small idea. I was like, I want to tell people stories and I want to hold them in their pain and have them feel supported and validated by hearing the stories of other people and talking about the emotions. And and also around that time, there were so many people who were starting to talk about their fertility experiences, not within the Jewish world, but in the regular outside world, starting to talk about their experiences on social media. And it like was like a light bulb for me, because I thought, oh, I don't need to be tied to one specific geography.
Yeah.
I can reach people anywhere in the world, whether they're in the middle, ensconced in a very vibrant Jewish community with lots of support, or they're in the middle of nowhere. Also, nobody has to go anywhere to get the support. They can literally get it in the palm of their hands. And it means that anyone, I mean, at that point, it was like if you had a smartphone or you had, internet access, right? Like anyone could access this material. So it was open to everyone and anyone. And because for me, the personal hearing other people's stories, and I've spoken a lot about how in my time, like when I was in those years where I was having all those losses, the one thing that got me through more than really anything else, yes, it was spending the time grieving and blah, blah, blah. But there was another person who was going through second trimester losses around the same time I was. And the two of us, like, literally picked each other up, like, from that pit of despair. Like, I always say, my Rivkah, who I still love and I'm still close with, and I talk to her all the time. Like, Rivkah was was the reason why I didn't kind of like fall away, like, period.
Yeah.
And so, like, the storytelling, right? The value of hearing people's stories and letting people know that they were not alone, and saying, like, seeing themselves in that emotion, that's what I was interested in. And I was interested in literally bringing it to people in the palm of their hands. And then from there, it was, well, I can't do this alone. Like, I'm spending all my time doing this, and like, I have a family.
It's consuming.
And I knew, to be clear, like, I knew it was way more than an Instagram account from the moment, even like at the same time I started the Instagram account. I also this was a nonprofit. Like, I got registered. We did all the licensing things. Like, I did all the proper things. And so, like, around the year mark, I was like, hey, I kind of need some money because I need help, and I can't do this alone. And, if you think that this is valuable, please donate. And that first year, I think we raised like $36,000 or something like that. Like, I said, my goal is 25. I was thinking, like, I just need to be able to support an admin. Like, that's all I was really thinking about. We surpassed our goal, and like, we started a website, and so every year it has really been this, like,
evolved,
just like evolving and saying, like, okay, where are we
what's
at
needed
now?
Yeah, like, what do the people need?
What do the people need now? Like, now we're much more sophisticated. We survey our people. Like, what do you actually need? Where do we need to grow? Where do you don't need us to do anymore? Like, we do, very practical things in terms of trying to figure out how to actually help the people in the best way possible. And I mean, people often think, like, they think, oh, well, you're like a social media organization, and sure, you have a podcast, and yes, you do trainings in communities, and you're scholar in residence, and you speak to workplaces, and you run 15 support groups, but like, everything is free. So you must have like some big donor that, like, supports you. And the answer is no. We are like, we have 18 staff and contractors now. And
wow,
every single donation that we get is from an individual person. It's not some like big conglomeration that's like, I have a $600,000 budget, and I'm grateful for every single $18, because that's where it comes. Like, yes, we've gotten a grant every now and then for a drop here and a drop there, but like, it's not like, I'll give you the best example. Many organizations are able to do matching campaigns when they run their campaign, because they have these big donors that give them large amounts of money that they can say, like, we want to raise $500,000, but we already have 250 that's already banked. And like, we just need to raise in all of, like, we're heading into our 7th year, God willing. In all of our years, we've never had a matching campaign, because I don't have big donors. I don't have big donors.
So it's basically community supported.
Correct.
And every little bit, it counts, and blood, sweat, and tears. And this is, this is your passion, and your whole heart is into it, which actually brings me to my next question, and the thing that I want to touch upon before we have to wrap up. Putting yourself in a position to run this kind of organization, first of all, especially you started it by yourself, and the whole ethos of your organization is hearing people's stories and giving a space for people to be heard and their pain to be seen, which I speak about all the time, which holds so much value. But we're all still human. And you open yourself up, like you said in the beginning, you're like, wow, like you all of a sudden realize how much pain there is in the world. Like you put yourself in a position where now you are really seeing like such struggle and challenge and heartbreak and pain day in and day out. And it becomes so part of your whole life because this is what you're dedicated your life to do. But we're human and that takes a toll. So I want to hear from you what happens. I'm not asking you if there's burnout. I'm asking like what happens when all of a sudden it becomes too much because we all have capacity. I don't think I made this up, but I think there's in the caregiving world, there is something called like compassion fatigue.
Totally.
It's a thing. And it's not that you become desensitized. It's not that you don't care anymore. It's not that other people's stories aren't. It's just there's a certain amount that a one human being can hold. And I know that there's ways that people in this profession learn how to, like you said, not take it home or not absorb it. But things probably start to seep in. And every once in a while, it becomes too much. So how does that play out for you? And I guess I'm going to ask you, have you experienced that? I would be so surprised if the answer was no. And how does that play out?
So it's interesting, right? I said to you just a few minutes ago about how I didn't go into psychiatry.
Exactly.
And I didn't become a therapist, right?
And here you are.
Right? And here I am.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I am able to do this work is because I have a happy ending. This pain, while it is very much my story, and I mean, I've told my story now probably hundreds of times, and there are still moments, as we saw here, where I still cry. So, right? So it is still very much part of who I am. And it is part of the way that I have built. I was supposed to have a baby with that deep understanding and compassion because I actually really get it.
Yeah.
And this is not my story anymore. Like I had a happy ending. That pain, while I can access it, I can go back there. I can
A blink of an
really,
eye.
like,
Yeah.
I can immerse myself fully in it. But it's back there.
Yeah.
I can do an interview like this, or I can speak to someone who is in deep pain. I can shut this down and go yell at my kids because they didn't clean up X, Y, and Z. And so I do have the capacity because it's almost like this is my work life and this is my personal life. And so there is that boundary there. And I'm saying and a lot.
Well, it's because it's such a good word. When you substitute and for but, it makes all the difference because but kind of dismisses everything you said before.
Yeah.
And includes it. So I like it.
By the way, I learned the and, not that like any of us need to learn and because we learned it in kindergarten, but I learned the and in the describing and describing of situations and also
holding two things at the same time.
Supervising people at work and so on. I learned this actually from our director of operations, Becca. She speaks a lot in the and language and I've picked it up from her.
It's good. It's very powerful.
So, and there are definitely moments in time where like I need to step back and I need to take a break because, it's like that analogy of like the metaphor, whatever, of like the bucket gets filled at some point and then the bucket overflows. And then like, what do you do? Right. So, I preach a lot about self-care and I talk about like how you need to have boundaries and you need to say no and you need to do all those things. And I mostly have that in place in my own life, mostly. However, I have a very strong work ethic and I have a very deep need to make sure, as I said, I think it goes back to like what we were talking about earlier of like when I believe that something is right, like I want to see it through. So I have this deep need to make sure that the work that we do is excellent and that we are holding people in the best way possible.
And you're showing up and you're there for people when they need it.
Correct.
And you're never absent or you're there.
Correct. Also, a lot of the one-to-one interactions in terms of our DMs on Instagram or on other social media, I handle myself to this
Oh,
day.
wow.
I
Okay.
handle myself, not because I don't trust other people to do it, but because, and I have trained other people to do it, but because I view it as something that's deeply important, that I want people to have that personal touch when they come in, because I know what it's like to feel that much pain and to be scared to reach out. And
Yeah.
so I want, there's a perfectionism piece of it. I want people to be held in the way that I want them to be held. Let's
Yeah.
call it what it is,
Yeah.
right?
You have expectations of what you're providing.
Yeah. And what that also means is that, like, not only am I beholden to the community, but I also have a staff and contractors. And so my work is ever increasing every single day. Like, people only see what they see. They don't see all of the meetings that I take
Oh my
internally
gosh.
and
Yes.
and managing staff and supervision and running a budget and making sure we have all the technology is working, and also speaking to donors, and then also speaking to different partners who we want to do work with. Like, there is a tremendous amount of work. Yes, I have lots of people who are doing all the things also.
Yeah. But I always say the buck stops by you. And I always joke like it's on a smaller scale, but it's a very similar idea where you come to like a Chabad house, there's like this beautiful meal or yontif or whatever. And
Yep.
it's like, you know, and the people, everyone is so grateful for the food and whatever. And I'm like, if you only knew
Yes.
like how much work happens before I even step into the kitchen.
Yep.
It's like, you need to have a grocery list, but in order to have a grocery list, you need to make a menu. And to make a menu, you need to know how many people are coming. You need to invite, like, and it's like this whole step process. Like, you think like the cooking is where it's all at, which it is a lot of work, but there's so much brain work and organization and responsibility that happens before you even step into the kitchen. So same for you, right? Before you're even seeing like whatever you see online, how much that takes behind the scenes.
Correct. And I'm not a person, as we know, who can stay up very late into the night. Like, I prefer to go to sleep around 12 and then wake up. And
12's not so early, by the way.
Okay, fine. And over the last 6 years, I have started getting less and less and less sleep. So on a typical night, I'm not going to bed until 1, 2, or 3. That's a regular night.
Ivy.
And then you just talked about preparing a Shabbat meal, Shabbos meal for your Chabad. Like, okay, I also have
a family. Yeah.
And my family, thank God, 5 kids, everybody loves to have guests. Loves. So most weeks we have 15, 20 people at my table. Now, that's not 50 or 100 or whatever it is.
No, that's a lot.
The same, the cooking and the shopping and the planning and the all, right? And so, and thank God we have, my kids are involved in all kinds of extracurricular activities, and this one has homework and this one has tests and basketball games and practice and, you know, all the things. And so because I have such a strong work ethic and want people to be held in a way that I think is excellent, I found myself getting less and less and less sleep to try to manage all of the different pieces.
You needed more hours in the day.
And just basically crashing on Friday nights and also Saturday nights, and not really able to function in a way that was substantive. And like, at some point it can't go on. And I'll tell you that I have never taken, up until January of this year, I had never fully stepped away from work in 6.5 years, ever. I'm always the one answering emails. I'm always the one answering DMs. I'm always the one still managing blah. I've never, ever taken a vacation, a proper vacation. And in the beginning of January, the truth is, it was actually the end of December, I was starting to fall apart.
You're unraveling.
Like, I actually didn't recognize myself. I started crying like 15 times a day for no reason whatsoever. Like
your body was overwhelmed, so it just had to come out.
It was literally, it was like one Friday afternoon, and I'm like in the kitchen with my daughter, and like we're like, I know she was making challah, I was making some cake, and like the flour spilled, and I'm like hysterical.
Falling.
And she's like,
oh my gosh,
Aimee, it's not that big of a deal. It's just flour. We have more. Like, what's your problem?
But it's that, oh my God, I so relate to that. Like you're holding it together, and then like something stupid happens and you lose it because that's it.
And that was 15 times a day. Like I was keeping track because I was.
Yeah, you're like, I need to like document this.
I didn't recognize myself. I stopped being able to function. Like our family had planned a trip in the middle of January. My kids have this yeshiva break. It's this break mid-January where I was planning on going away with my family. But again, I don't.
You always work during your breaks.
Always working during breaks. I don't know. I was supposed to go away January 17th or whatever it was. By like January 12th, we were still in the like preparations for me kind of quote unquote going away. And I was like, yeah, I can't do anymore. I'm out. And I just stopped. And first of all, I also I called my doctor. I called my therapist. I was like, there is something wrong with my body. I am not myself.
I'm not okay.
I'm not okay. I have no capacity for anything. There is something majorly wrong with me. And again, I'm not a person who has a predisposition to like mental health challenges. So like it just, nobody like,
again,
circumstantial, couldn't explain it. There was nothing new about what was going on at work. There's nothing new. It was, okay, it's just another day, another vacation, another
cumulative,
nothing. And to be clear, over the last 6 months or a year, there have been different points in my life, personal things with extended family or other things, which have been super stressful. And I've been fine, like just sailing along, like managing the stress and managing work and managing my family, and like didn't like blink, like just kept moving. And so this was super scary. My doctor immediately was like, well, Aimee, how old are you? And like, maybe this is like a perimenopausal, like hormonal shift that you're having. Like, how often are you having your periods and so on? And I'm like, oh, okay. Actually, that like makes me feel a whole lot better. Like I'm not going crazy, that there actually could be a reason for this.
Yeah.
And here we go. And it was not healthy what I was doing in terms of like running myself into the ground and just going and going and going and going without a break. And so it was the purest definition of burnout that you could like imagine. But I think many people have burnout just because they work too much. I had the full like burnout of I work too much. Life is stressful. I have a very full life.
Hormonal shift.
And like I had my hormones started tanking. Yeah. So it took a real like 3+ weeks where I like basically like we went away and I didn't talk to anyone. Like we were in the midst of, I mean, I can tell people now, but like some people knew, like we went to the Bahamas to this, like we were in Florida and then we were in the Bahamas. Like I didn't go to shul. I didn't like, I was kind of like with my kids and didn't talk to a single other person with the exception of one friend who like somehow figured out that I was there and then was like, do you want to talk? I was like, not really.
No. Yeah.
Like, no, actually, I don't want to talk to you. But everybody was really worried because I'm not a person that falls apart and I can handle everything. My kids were really worried. My husband was really worried. And I took it as a real moment and a real calling of, I cannot do this in this way
in the same
anymore.
way. Yeah.
And everything has to change. And the only way I'm going to get better is if, like, yes, I do the Hirschy list, like I did the medical stuff and like hormone supplementation. Yes. Like speaking to my therapist. Yes. But like
You needed a lifestyle change.
like I needed a complete
Yeah.
overhaul and a complete lifestyle change.
Well, because even though you said like nothing changed, everything was different, but you have to take into consideration the accumulation
Yes.
of your sleep deprivation and the amount of work and the emotional load. And even though I can very much relate to this, even though you're like managing and you have capacity and you're doing all the things, but eventually like the engine wears out or the bucket overflow. Like it's science, right? Like you can't avoid.
I thought I was superhuman. Like I can do it all. What's the problem?
Correct. Because, oh my God, my therapist tells me this all the time. It's the one single thing that I hate when he says. He's like, I'll tell him this like dramatic story and how like, I don't know, something. And he's like, oh, so you're human? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? I am way better than that. But putting all the hormones aside, like nothing changed, but something had to change.
And now everything has changed.
Okay, so tell me, like, what did you do? What did you change? What did you overhaul?
Okay, so first of all, again, I need to shout out Becca, my director of operations, who also, like, she saw it. Like, she saw it coming. And she was like, Aimee, like, everything needs to change. She's like, okay, I'm going to start readjusting your calendar. That was like the first thing that changed. As a way of explanation, in a typical day prior to this, I would be in meetings from sometimes 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So no wonder that after everybody like finally got settled in the evening, that's why I was up till 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning, because there was actually work to do. Like I couldn't just like be in meetings and talk to people. I actually had other things that needed to get done. Like, and there was never a break in my day. There was no time to pause and reflect. There was no time to do work. So I was constantly forced to push things to the evening. And then I was just like, I can't remember the last time. I couldn't remember the last time I exercised. I couldn't remember the last time I actually ate something that took more than a second to like grab into my pantry a protein bar and grab. Like I couldn't remember.
That's terrible.
It was absurd. It was, forget about like people like, they're like, what was the last TV show you watched on? I'm like, TV show? Who has time to watch TV? Like, I'm working all the time. Like, when was the last time I grabbed coffee with my friends? I've never grabbed coffee with my friends. I see people on Shabbos and that, like, so it, like, everything needed to change about my calendar. So that was the first thing. And Becca took it upon herself and she's like, I'm reorganizing you. I'm doing this, that, and the other. And now I have time during the day that are breaks. I don't start work until 10 o'clock in the morning. So that gives me time.
You can eat, you can like get yourself ready. Exercise. Yeah.
I can actually like process what's going on, see if there's any fires that need to be put out before I'm actually like sitting in meetings or going through things. Like I can like just take a moment and breathe before, like after my kids go to school, I like have the time. And then I made a promise to myself that I'm exercising now consistently 4 and 5 times a week. I am making sure that I'm focusing on nutrition in the way that I need to and focusing on protein and vegetables. Yes, I'm still eating my babka. For those of you who know that I love gooey babka. Yes, of course, I'm still having that. But when I'm constantly grabbing fast food, and even if it's healthy fast food, like, and not actually focusing on the things that will properly fuel me, then that's another thing that like leads to the fall, right?
Yeah.
And then the last piece, really, I'm not the last, but like I think one of the most important pieces is sleep. Now, no matter what is going on, everything gets closed down between 11 and 11:30 so that I am in bed sleeping between 11:30 and 12, like 12:30 the latest. And then I'm usually up around 7. And I will say like, I really am practicing what I preach in the sense that like 2 nights ago, it was 10 o'clock. I had a massive headache, but I still had like 8 things on my to-do list that I knew I could have banged out in the next hour. And I was like, yeah,
I'm shutting it down.
I'm done. Like I'm going to bed right now. And so I got to it the next day. And before, I never would have let it get to that point. And I'm not perfect, to be clear. Like,
well, of course. Remember, you're human.
Okay, fine. But thanks for reminding me. But like I'm not perfect, but there is this, like, I'm like, for those of you who are listening and not watching this at the moment, like I make this like motion with my hands where like I feel like I'm trying to contain it in a box. Like my therapist and I talk about this all the time. She's like, "What are you trying to put in that box?" Like that I'm like, I'm trying to make sure that I am doing all of the things that are within my control to keep myself steady. I can't control everything else, but if I can control this, thank God, like I have been able to quote unquote, like come back from the burnout in a healthier way. And it feels very gratifying, so to speak, in that, you know, I was talking to her a lot about how, like, when I was having all of those miscarriages, everything was out of my control, right? Like I kept like, I would go to doctors and try to get answers, and I would try to like, we would try to figure it out in this medicine and try that, or like, but like at the end of the day, it was not within my control, right? Only Hashem is in control. And like, I was trying to gain control of a situation, which is inherently like uncontrollable, uncontrollable, whatever.
Uncontrollable, I think. Like, now that you mention it, I don't know.
Fine, whatever. Anyway, we can talk to the grammar police afterwards. But here, look, at the end of the day, I don't have control over what is being thrown at me, but I do have control about the way that I lead my life and that I put myself in the world. And this is what I can control. And thank God, with all of these pieces, I've been able to come back to baseline. So I'm just trying my best to keep myself level so that I can show up as a person for my family and my community and for the people. And I was supposed to have a baby and just like be the person who I regularly am. But now it just takes a lot more of this, me like putting myself in this box and like trying to hold the control.
Yeah. But it's pretty incredible that you did like relatively a short time come back and also decide to make the changes, because so often, even though we like can see it right in front of us, it's really hard to make those really practical changes. And it's one of those things where like stuff eventually catch up with you. Like no one gets away with it. And that's my opinion. People might get away with it for longer, but if you're not going to take care, and this whole stupid thing of self-care, which is
so stupid.
And it became like this also, it's so stupid, like nobody even likes to talk about it now because it's so overused, but self-care is not about luxury. Self-care is about sleeping, eating, exercising,
stress reducers.
Even like you don't even underestimate like having space in your day to be like not over scheduling. Like my husband schedules his day like boom, 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 boom. And I cannot do that. Like I know myself, like I need breathing space. I always joke. I'm like, every once in a while, I'm like, wow, I need so much maintenance just to like keep the engine going. But I've learned like, I know what I need to manage my life. And that is I exercise, I eat proper food, I do take trips, like, and I feel like that's the only reason why I haven't completely lost my mind.
Look, you learned this lesson way before I did, clearly. I mean, it took me bottoming out, like completely bottoming out and thinking I was superhuman before I learned the lesson.
And maybe my work ethic isn't as strong. but
you know, there's what to learn from.
No, I know, but it's like, I find that these things, you learn them because you have to. Very few people are doing it intuitively and intentionally right from the start. Unless, I mean, I guess it's a little bit different now, generationally, I think like the Gen Zers for all their stuff, like they know how to do this a little bit better than we do. But for me, it took like my kids need so much of me, But if I don't have any of me to give, like, where's that going to get me? So it's like you fall into these positions or these life moments where you're forced to make the choice. Like, how do you want to be in this world?
My son had a basketball game the other night, and it was like 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back, and like a 2-hour basketball game, general, whatever. And before the burnout, we can like make an acronym there.
Yes,
whatever,
I think that's great.
Right.
Before burnout, after burnout.
Right, before burnout, after burnout, right? So before the burnout, I would, and I'm usually the driver in our family. Like, I love to drive. I would have been stressed the entire time, like at the game, like on my phone, answering emails, not paying attention to him, and like missing shots. And like, because I was like trying to balance.
I'm trying to do everything at once.
I'm like, I'm there at the game. I'm there. I'm watching. Oh yeah, right, great job. You had a great. I saw. Yeah. Of course I saw it. But like going out, like during like the halftime and the sessions of like taking a phone call or taking this. For that like 4-hour period, I did not pick up my phone once.
That's incredible.
That was like, it was the first time that I kind of like in the moment recognized that I was putting into place pieces that I was desperately trying to do to be more present for everyone else. And I was like, I am not perfect. I like, again, like we talked about. Like,
you're going to fall off the wagon, and you're going to like, one day you're going to stay up till 3 a.m. and you're going to regret it. And but then you will know what you have to come back to.
Yeah.
Exceptions to the rules are always a thing. But if you have a system in place, there are at least exceptions, and they're not the always.
Correct.
Yeah. I always tell my husband, because my husband's very, I think very similar to you in this work ethic type of way. And like, if someone calls, he answers the phone right away. He answers texts like the second they come in. And I always am like, nothing is going to happen if you don't answer right away. Like, you're not that important. Like, nothing is going to happen if you let the call go to voicemail and you return the call. But it's such a different wiring. Like, it doesn't, I mean, he's also learning and trying to get better. But for him, it gives him anxiety to not do that. So he's like, I might as well just do it in the moment, because then I have to think about doing it later. I'm like,
it feels like you're kind of sitting in our staff meetings a little bit, because literally like we've had this conversation very recently.
Yeah.
About like, what would happen if
you answer in 2 hours?
An auto message on the DMs. What would happen if they got that? And then it was, if there was some urgent matter, we could give them resources, a link to our resources, blah, 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 instead of you personally answering them. What would happen? And I'm like, well, they're like, Aimee.
Yeah. You can have a very like loving automatic message. Your story is so important to me. Thank you for messaging. We will get back to you as soon as I can. If there's an emergency, here's where you should go. It's so hard though. Like, I really feel you. It's so hard. But you're doing it.
I am.
And
I am. Slowly.
You're doing a lot though. Like, you're doing it slowly, but also like you had to make a lot of big significant changes.
It was so scary that I was just,
I'll do anything. You're like, I'll do anything.
I didn't recognize myself. Nobody recognized me. And I also like, I really felt like also I had let myself down, because I know. Of
course, the self-judgment comes into play too.
Right.
Why not?
But like I'd let myself down in that, like, I know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I know I'm supposed to be taking care of myself, but I haven't been. So I felt like I kind of let myself down because I wasn't taking care of myself. And like, I knew that the people would be held by everyone else on staff while I was like in this moment in time. So I wasn't worried about that. I was like, I'm such a fraud.
Yeah.
I preach all these things to other people that they need to take care of themselves. And I'm out here in this like very visible public role, holding people, and I can't even take care of myself. Like, what is that all about?
It's called being human. And it's so crazy, because we'll wrap up, but just to end with something that happened to me last week. And it really just reminded me, because you said, you tell yourself like, I know better. And I had an interaction with one of my kids that was difficult, and I stepped like right into it. And in the moment, it was like, I either took it personally, or I just like didn't practice what I know to be true. And afterwards, I'm like, the conversation, it's like, those things are repairable and it's fine. You know what I'm saying? But what I was so upset about is that I knew better. Like I knew that this happens. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know how I'm supposed to react. I know the right way to handle this. And I didn't do it. And it's so upsetting because it's like, I've spent so much time knowing what to do. And then here's the opportunity and I didn't do it. I was literally in therapy yesterday talking about it. I was so disappointed in myself. Like that was the worst part of it. It's like, an idiot. Like you're an idiot, you know?
Yep.
But that's what makes us human. That's what makes us constantly in the path of growth. And I think it's so relatable and normal that it is so much easier to be there for other people and to advocate for other people's self-care but to do it for ourselves. Like, of course, like if I'm talking to, of course, Aimee, like you should take care of yourself and go to sleep. You do all the things to translate it to your own self. Like that's a whole different thing.
It's very humbling. It's very humbling.
So humbling. But I so appreciate you sharing that piece of the story because I think it's very impactful. And I think everybody in their life can relate to like those moments where they know that something needs to change. And it's just, we have to do it. If you were to share as a closing, basically, is there a way to avoid burnout in that way? Or you kind of just have to experience it and then learn from it? You know how we like tell our kids, don't make the same mistakes I did as a teen. And of course, they're going to make the same exact mistakes because you need to live it to experience it. Do you think it's a similar thing for burnout? Like you can give all the tips and tricks, but at the end of the day, we just have to figure it out for ourselves.
Look, I preach this, right? Like I tell people, I literally tell people what to do. Like I tell people, say no, don't go, like go take a walk by the beach, get outside, like sit down with your hot cup of tea, like go exercise and move your body. Like I
basically take your own advice. That's the advice.
Correct.
Just take your own advice.
I tell people to do this all the time. I think it's a very human endeavor, so to speak, to want to complete a task. Like when you have an idea of like something that you want to do, it's like, it's that unfinished like piece that it's hard to sit with. Like, I mean, it's in the minute of like, you thought you were going to bake 2 cakes, you only made 1. And like, you get to Shabbos and you're like, I really wish I would have had 2 cakes. Like it like,
right. It's in the lack. Like you feel like you're
like
lacking.
a lack, even though nobody else cares. Like they're so happy you have a delicious, yummy cake in front of you. Like no one cares there wasn't 2. But I think we all have this internal sort of compass about what our own expectations are, and that we put on ourselves. Like no one else can put that on us. And if we then don't live up to those expectations, the question is, well, what do I need to do to get that done? Because there's like that tension, like it feels uncomfortable, right? When you don't complete something, like it feels off.
Feels unfinished. Yeah. It feels unsettling.
Correct. It's unsettling. And so I think if people could live in the uncertainty and they could live with that unsettling a little bit more and know that, like I preach to my staff internally, like I love the line and I say it all the time, like done is better than perfect. And I deeply believe that, deeply in my kishkas, like I deeply believe that we should not perseverate on like trying to get to the point of where it's like finished to like the most excellent part. Like, yes, I strive for excellence, but also done is better than perfect.
Right? The good, what is it? The
perfect is
the enemy of good.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And there is this like done, right? Done is better than not done. Like that's I think where the tension lies. And if people could sit with the undone or the half done a little bit longer and not feel like it has to be done before they feel like
they can take
complete, then I think that it would make all of us a little bit better. Like I just in the same way where like I didn't check off my entire list. It's a tiny example, but like I went to bed and I'm like, it's not happening today. Okay, great. It'll happen tomorrow or the next day.
I actually love that. It was so unexpected that the way that you approached that piece of advice is, first of all, recognizing that we want to finish our tasks and give space that that's a normal thing to want to finish your task. And I think that that subtle piece of advice of like, your advice wasn't like, oh, okay, go to sleep early, whatever. We know all those things. But the advice was practice being a little bit uncomfortable with not getting all your tasks done when you want them to be done or when you expected them to be done. I think that is so wise, so nuanced, and such a great shift and perspective. And I love that. And I think it's a perfect way to end our lovely conversation. Like, I'm going to think about that so much now. It's okay. Be uncomfortable with it not being totally done. Guess who else I'm going to tell it to? My husband.
You tell it to me? Are you telling it to me? Is that what you're trying to do, Chavie? You're trying to like make me like take back my words and like
take your own advice.
Yes.
Yes. And by the way, everybody, take your own advice. That's also a really good tip. Thank you so much for being here and scheduling me in your day, even a little earlier than usual. It was such an honor. Loved every minute.
Best part of my day. I adore you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, so we are going to jump right in to our hot take segment of this podcast. The hot take of this week is, are you a home birth mama or a hospitals only kind of girl? Now, before we get into this segment, I'm not a big fan of disclaimers, but I do have to give a warning. This podcast that you just listened to was focused on infertility, miscarriage, talking through the hardships of being in this space of child rearing and the difficulties for some people to get there. Of course, we talked about many other things, but I think a lot of people who tuned in and listened were listening for that reason. So I just want to be very sensitive and for you to know that this hot take section, ironically, we're focused on birth and how people choose to give birth. So if that's not something that you want to hear, especially after listening to this podcast, that's okay. Now is your chance to turn it off and then you're done. You don't have to listen to it. If you are interested in this topic, it's gonna be so fun. The topic was taken from the previous episode from Dossie, where Dossie's a doula, and we talked about different ways of giving birth and the choices that women make and why. And I thought it would be a really kind of fun topic to hear about from the people. And it turns out that you guys really want to talk about this. I cannot even tell you how many people responded with, oh my gosh, I have so many thoughts. I have so many opinions. I have so many things I want to share. And I freaking love that. I love to talk about the things that you want to talk about. And just for the sake of discussion and hearing people's opinions and thoughts and why people do the things that they do. And this is not meant to be a guide or to tell you how to do things. You're not meant to listen to this discussion and be swayed in one way or another. I totally believe in and trust everyone's ability to make smart and informed decisions. This is just about the discussion. It's just about having a passionate conversation around interesting things and interesting topics. And you guys wanted to talk about this. So I got so many responses. So buckle up because I'm not even going to be able to share all of them, but I have a good amount that I'm going to share. So stay tuned. I'm going to share some voice notes. I'll even share a few texts that I thought were really great and informative. And then I'll share my thoughts in between. So without further ado, I'm going to start.
My name's Leah. I live in New York, and I, Baruch Hashem, have had the bracha to give birth to 3 beautiful children, and each time I have needed to have the baby in hospital for my health and for baby's health. So while the idea of being at home and not having to schlep somewhere and like be in someone else's space and to just be in my own space is appealing, I think to have a baby at home and not know, chas v'shalom, like what to do if something goes wrong is terrifying. Like I could never. I will only have my babies in hospital, or even a birthing center attached to a hospital. That would be great. I would love that. But no, only in hospital. Because chas v'shalom, something happens. Why would you want to say, like, I was so determined to have a home birth that you were so selfish that you caused harm to your child? That was completely preventable.
Okay, so very fair perspective. You could want to do something one way, but then your circumstances make you have to reevaluate and make a different decision. I think that is a really important aspect to this, is like, we must be really aware of our own personal circumstances and what is and isn't possible for the health of your baby and yourself.
As a doula, I think that you should give birth where you feel most comfortable. If you are terrified of a hospital setting, that's not going to make your birth go very smoothly. However, that being said, we don't know what's going to happen within our bodies. And so giving birth somewhere that at least you can get medical help or with a professional that knows when it's time to transfer to a hospital is probably your safest bet. I always recommend to people that doing a hospital birth or somewhere that has access to quick medical emergency care is a really smart choice for the first or even second birth, because once your body has kind of paved the way to do it, you can usually give birth fairly easily. Yes, there are some things that tend to go wrong, but in whatever setting feels good for you. So yes, the idea of a home birth or a birth center birth is really fun and exciting for a lot of people. I think that we oftentimes let that excitement cloud our judgment over real things that can happen that we don't often talk about.
Okay, I love that this message is from a doula, from Bozeman, no less. And it's a lot of food for thought in this message. There's so many things that you can take away from this message. Number one, you need to feel comfortable. It's so important to feel comfortable. Number two, oftentimes the first or second child, you need more safety and intervention, or you just don't know what's going to happen. Of course, we never know what's going to happen, but there is something to be said for knowing your body and maybe being a little safer around the first and second child. And then later on, if you're having more children, you have a little bit more leeway. Number three, finding safe people. Just because you're giving birth at home doesn't mean all providers are created equal. You need to make sure that you have somebody that knows when to call it, that is knowledgeable, that has skill, that's informed, and you have access to the care that you might need. Let's see what's next.
You can always count on me for a voice note about any questions you have. In my family, we have some home birthers and some very anti-home birthers. It's not a discussion. Nobody discusses it. It's not like hush hush, but everyone respects that. Everyone does what they want to do. When you're an adult, make your own decisions. Me personally, hospital, no other way. I guess people who experience very scary scenarios in life and in birth and all that will say hospital for the most part, I think. I have a sister who emerged really, really badly during a birth. Had she been home, she probably would not have made it. So, yeah, my husband and I are very strong believers that if you could be near emergency care, if there was something that would go wrong, then that's the best route. But if someone feels strongly about doing it at home and they're willing to take that kind of risk and whatever, then that's on them. We also just heard about someone she's a big home birther. She just had her 4th kid at home. She also doesn't do ultrasounds. and her kid was born. The arm was turning blue, face was turning blue. They didn't know what was going on. Turns out after everything, they found out that the baby had everything on the wrong side of the body. It was like a mirror image, whatever was supposed to be on the right was on the left and vice versa. That baby is going to have probably not going to live very long because the life expectancy for those type of things is very, very short, and multiple surgeries, living in the hospital, that kind of situation. So yeah, we have a lot of feelings about those kind of things, about using the medicine that is available and the medical expertise that is around is so helpful in everything in life. And yes, hospital, team hospital.
Okay, this is actually a really interesting experience for me in general, is because I'm kind of on the outside of this conversation. I've never given birth. I probably will never give birth. And so it's a very interesting position. It's actually a really good position to be in because I actually don't have my own experiences or my own really big, passionate feelings to color what I'm hearing. So it is interesting to just listen to these messages. I think in general, everybody comes with such a valid and unique perspective, and their own experiences informs us how we think and how we feel. So if somebody has a very bad experience in the hospital, they're going to want to give up birth at home. If someone has a really traumatic experience at home, they're going to be like, no, it's not safe. And I think at the end of the day, there's kind of risk to anything that you do. There's a lot of risks to give birth at home, and there's a lot of risks to give birth in the hospital, honestly. And so I think at the end of the day, it's a risk assessment of which risk you feel more comfortable taking, which is kind of, as I'm listening to these messages, it's kind of how I feel.
Hey, so interesting. Excited to hear about your what you end up getting about home birthing. I'll say that I had 5 home births out of 6, and I had amazing experiences, and I can't imagine doing it any other way at this point. But I very strongly have the opinion that every person has to give birth where they feel most comfortable. And I think where you're most comfortable is where you'll be safest. So for someone who isn't sure if they're comfortable with a home birth, I don't think that's a good choice. I'm not someone who thinks that every single person should give birth at home. And I really believe that a mom needs to feel comfortable and safe where they are, needs to feel that this is the most, the best place for them at that time in order for them to feel relaxed and to birth well. So if that's at home, then I think that's the best place for you to be. But if it's at the hospital, then I think that's where you should be. Anyways, that's my opinion.
I think it's very valuable to think of things in that way. Our mindset really has so much impact and power on how things turn out. And this is a common theme that keeps coming up. Where are you comfortable? You have to be comfortable. You have to feel safe. And that is a real determining factor on where you decide to give birth.
Hi, Chavie. Alana Elkie here. I am a home birth mama all the way. It's where I feel I have the most autonomy to have an empowered birth, an empowered physiological birth. And I've had 3 beautiful boys at home.
Okay, I love the definitive, I'm a hospital mama or I'm a home birth mama, no explanation needed. I just know what I want. And I love that. That's the real fun aspect of this hot take. It's you could just say without any reasoning, just what you do and how you feel.
In response to your question, home birth or hospital birth, I had 7 hospital births, and then my last birth was a home birth. Highly, highly recommend home birth if you are able to, and if you can find a midwife who is as amazing as mine. Highly recommend it. You cannot compare it. It was absolutely amazing.
Okay, this is something that I've been hearing a lot too through all the messages that I've been getting, that a lot of people started off with hospital births and then their last few or last one did a home birth. The frustrating thing that I hear is how disempowered people feel in the hospital. And that is so sad. It's why is it that when you're in a hospital setting, I'm not saying it's like this for everybody. Obviously, we understand nuance, okay? there's time for nuanced conversation. Right now, we're kind of just spitting it out there. So there has been a lot of people who shared their experience in the hospital being so disempowering, not having autonomy, just be an agenda being pushed. And that is a problem. Like, it shouldn't be that way, irregardless of if home birth is the answer. I feel like that's not okay.
So I actually had a home birth with my second, and it was very redeeming. I feel like my first birth was like a little hard. I always wanted to do a home birth. I just didn't do it for my first. Also, some people are like against epidural, or some people feel like, why should you be in pain? Like all of that. Obviously, if I could do it at home and not be in pain, I would do that. But I'm not necessarily against epidural or any of that. It's more just being in the hospital, and what comes along with it, the doctors, and you can't really move, and you just you lose your voice. And even with the pain, it was painful, but I feel it's manageable, and it's a whole process, a whole journey. So yeah, for me, I would do a home birth, hopefully.
So that's exactly what I was saying before. It's so many people experience their journey through childbirth, if they're in the hospital, as unpleasant because you can't move your body the way you want it to move. You don't get a say. There's a lot of protocol. There's a lot of liability. And so that really colors people's experiences.
I am very passionate about childbirth. I am one of the few people who will tell you that I absolutely love labor. I love the whole process of it. I prepared even for my first one mentally and physically, because it's not something you just show up and do. It should be prepared. And I do it all naturally. No epidural, no nothing. I don't even let them put an IV in me. And yet I still do it at the hospital for a couple reasons. Main reasons are insurance covers the hospital. And for most home births, they do not. And it's very expensive. My husband's much more comfortable with it at the hospital, just in case. It doesn't bother me. But if I am going into the hospital, I must have a coach, a support. My mom's my coach. So that, and there has been things that come up that you need support on it. You need direction. You need someone to tell the nurse that keeps telling you you're going to get a C-section to leave the room. You need an advocate. These things are really important. And yet I have the most incredible labor experiences. And I love the whole process of it. I'm okay with the intensity. Yes, it gets very intense. I also am very lucky. I have very short labors. My longest labor was 7 hours. So I don't know what it would be like if it was a 36-hour labor. I've never had that, but I've read all the books. There's a book called Aimee Gaskin's Guide to Natural Childbirth. I recommend every single person read it. Even if you're not planning on getting a natural childbirth, you should read it. It is educational around birth and labor. And I think we all across the spectrum need to be way more educated on giving birth. And I'm happy to talk about it further, but I absolutely love it. I also like the comfort of being in a hospital. Once my baby's born, the nurses take care of the baby. I get to rest for 2 days and not be home. That's a really nice perk of being in a hospital. And I only go to the hospital because I know I have my mom, who's an incredible advocate. So I don't know that I would want to go unless I have a real advocate with me.
Okay, this message is from Aura Schwartz, and I have an interview with her on the podcast. She's just fabulous. And there was so much packed into this 2.5-minute message. First of all, I love that she suggested a book, Ina McGaskin. I love when I can provide resources for my listeners. So if anyone is in that stage of life and wanting to know and learn more, there you go. Secondly, I love that Aura's explaining and describing a way that you can really find a way to do it the way you want to, taking all things into consideration. Your husband's not as comfortable, insurance, you have limitations, you want to have a medication-free birth, but you don't want to do it at home. How do you make that happen for yourself in the hospital? And it seems maybe it's not possible in every hospital, but it seems that it's possible to have autonomy and do it your way in the hospital. You just have to be really clear, to be really firm on what you want. You have to have an advocate because from what I understand, while you're in the middle of birth, it's really hard to advocate for yourself. So have a strong advocate. And I love at the end, she's like, and I want to be in the hospital because I get help with my baby and I'm away from my family for 2 days, which is so interesting in contrast to some other people who love giving birth at home because they love the comfort of their own home and they don't like to be interrupted with the checks and the beeps and all the things that go on in a hospital. So it just goes to show that everybody is so unique and everybody has the things that work for them. Some people want a break if they're having a baby and they already have a big family. Having a break in the hospital is a win. For other people, it's not a break. It doesn't feel like a break. It feels invasive. It feels like you can't get any sleep. It's uncomfortable. So this is why the world goes round. Like everybody's different. And the message is really find your truth. And I'm going to play a message that shares that even more. But when we do something because everybody else is doing it or it becomes a fad, then it becomes dangerous when we're not informed and we're not really thinking about what we're doing.
Hi, Chavie. How are you? Number one, I just want to say I love the podcast. I really, really look forward to it every single week. Every other week, I mean. I don't mind that it's 2 hours long. I'll make it go faster and I'll listen to it. And I love that you have voices who are a little unique, out of the box, and just bring a different, fresh perspective on things. I really, really enjoyed that part of the podcast. About home births, I have a lot of opinions on it. A lot. I feel like I've heard about, not seen, but heard about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I feel like where I live in Crown Heights is definitely gotten out of control. I feel that there are a lot of people doing home births, and therefore there are a lot of stories that are starting to come out of the woodwork. So I don't have children yet, but thank God, most of my friends have children, are married and have children, and many of them have chosen to give birth at home, and they feel this is best for them, best for their baby. And so I did not want to be that judgmental friend, and I went and I did a little research. I spoke to Rabbanim, I spoke to Akala teachers, I spoke to doulas, I spoke to some people in Natsala, and what I heard was very, very interesting. I kind of heard like both sides of the aisle and a more well-rounded perspective. So what I heard from Rabbanim is that apparently the Rebbe said to a Rav in Tzfas who wanted to make a psak against home births, that a Rav of a city cannot do that. It's not in his purview. However, the Rabbanim themselves do feel that if someone would ask them, they would tell them that it's reckless and no. And this is the same thing that I heard from the college teachers. From the doulas, I did hear a lot of them feel that home birth can be a very, very good option for women, but they also have seen midwives and midwife practices that are, let's say, much to be desired. And if someone is choosing a midwife or a midwife from a practice that is not completely rigorous, it could be very, very dangerous for the mother and the baby. And that's another perspective. And then, of course, from my Hatzalah, I heard, we don't recommend it. We've seen too much off the record. It's not something that we recommend. So one thing that I really, really feel, especially after speaking to different people on all sides of the aisle about it and hearing different perspectives from people who are more in the know in our community, is that I feel anybody who is public facing or has a platform and promotes home births and talks about it and talks about the benefits of home birth and talks about what an amazing, magical experience it could be, also has a very, very, very real responsibility to inform people of the risks. Because yes, hospitals in New York are absolutely not perfect, and things go on in hospitals, and you can hear horror stories that are coming out of hospitals. But a home birth also carries many, many, many risks, and it should be something that someone goes into with a lot of caution and a lot of knowledge and a lot of research. And the problem is that I feel that there's a lot of people who are doing it, who are choosing to do it because they keep on hearing this message over and over again from different people in our community that it's not perfectly safe, but it could be a very, very safe and wonderful option without educating themselves enough about the risks. I feel there are a lot of people who are very young and who are not educated enough and don't have the life experience and who are choosing this. And that is very, very scary.
Okay, so that's exactly what I was saying before, which is why I played this voice note next, is that bottom line, risk is everywhere. Hashem also has a plan, and it doesn't absolve you from making really, really informed decisions. So amazing experiences can happen anywhere, and bad experiences can happen anywhere. That's the bottom line. The thing is that we're responsible to really understand what we're doing, make a choice that is good for us, not based on what the latest and greatest is out there. So things tend to become the in thing to do, and then we rely on that and forget to do our own research, forget to understand our bodies, forget to think about all the different ramifications or scenarios or circumstantial things that could happen. And that is on us as a human being in this world to be as informed as possible. Here is the last voice note. Honestly, I really could go on forever, but I can't keep you forever, although I really want to.
I definitely think that if somebody wants epidural, a hospital is a good idea, but definitely always have someone there to advocate for you, whether it's family member or a doula, someone that can speak for you if you're not able to communicate. It's always important to have someone there that knows what's going on and that can guide you also. There's always last minute decisions or things that can come up, or changes that you didn't have planned, and then you need to figure things out right away, or the doctors will make decisions for you that you weren't interested in doing necessarily. Obviously, you're going to listen because what's your options at that point? You just want a healthy baby and you want to do everything right, but they're not always coming from that point of view. So it's really important to have someone that knows what's going on. And there's always a risk in home birth, and I know a lot of people have stories and they're concerned about that, and I understand. For me, home birth has been a drastically different experience, to birth on all four in the water. It was a really, really beautiful experience. I was able to do things in my own pace, and I was the most calm. And I find that the calmer your body is, the quicker and painless, well, not painless, but less pain of an experience it is. And when there's stress, it's the opposite. So definitely hypnobirthing is amazing. Learning how to just, breath work, doing all of that through labor. It could be really an amazing experience.
So what my biggest question is, why don't hospitals allow you to give birth in a position that feels comfortable for you? This is such a recurring theme. It's like, I love to give birth at home because then I can go on my pace. I can give birth in a position that feels comfortable for me. I'm not stuck on my back. Why is it that you can't do that in the hospital? I don't have the answer. And plus, I am not super informed because, like I told you, this isn't really relevant in my life. I have, as you can imagine, I have thought about, like, if I were to give birth, what would I choose and how would I want to give birth? And it's really hard to know, like, when push comes to shove, what you would do. Like, I can have a plan and I can imagine what I would want to do, which obviously I lead more towards holistic. I would love to imagine I could give birth without an epidural. I would love to imagine me doing it at home. I would love the autonomy. I lean towards that. But then I don't know, if I would actually be making a decision, what I would choose. Would the fear scare me? Or if I'm actually in so much pain in childbirth, would I not beg for an epidural? It's very easy to speculate and be like, no, this is how I would do it. But until you're actually faced with the real choice, it's really hard to know what you would actually do. So I just have so much respect for all these mamas who are doing something really hard and hopefully really like leaning in to their needs and their bodies and making the choices that they feel is amazing and best for them. And also we have to really face the fact that scary things happen wherever you are. And sometimes it's not in your control wherever you are. And it's not in your control in the hospital, and it's not in your control at a home birth. And I think grace around that is really important. I wanted to read a message that I thought was just a really good message. It goes like this. First of all, I love your podcast. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Really enjoy your guests, the large range of voices you bring, and in the way you do it. I feel like I have to respond because I've had 2 hospital births and 4 home births, but I'm shy to voice note to the public. Every decision we make has a risk involved, and as frum Jews, we need to know the final say is always Hashem. You can have a bad outcome at home or in a hospital, so we weigh our risks and then make a choice. My choice of having a home birth has nothing to do with anyone else's choice. It was my own personal choice that worked for me. I don't think it's for everyone. I trust my midwife, and I trust from a medical perspective that because I am low risk, and based off of that, I trust that if something goes wrong, my midwife would be there to transfer me to a hospital. Obviously not ideal. I'm not blind to the fact that there are risks, but I choose this setting because I decide that the calm of my home and the constant support of my midwife with me will bring me the outcome I want. When I was in the hospital with my first 2, no one was with me until the very end except the doula, who was freaking out that the midwife wasn't there. I believe hospital saves lives, but not everything is a life-saving event, and home birth is not for everyone. Not a short hot take, but my take. And I think that's just a really beautiful way to end, because it is the truth. At the end of the day, Hashem runs the world. At the end of the day, Hashem gives us our autonomy to make the best choice that we can make with the information that we have, with the knowledge that we have. And then we believe in that. So thank you so much for coming along for this ride. I enjoyed it immensely. And I also want to give a heartfelt thanks from the bottom of my heart to all of those who participated in the hot take, who answered, who responded, who voice noted. Even if you didn't want your voice, and even if you didn't want me to post it, you still engaged and shared. It means so much to me. I always have this dream of like having like a live radio show. And right now, like this is as close as I can get. And the sense of community that comes with the engagement from you guys is my passion. And sometimes it's really hard just to like hear my own voice all the time. And when you engage, it really builds something. And I'm excited, and I see it growing, and I see the community just engaging and growing more and more. So kudos. Thanks for all who braved the voice note. It's not so scary, I promise. And if you haven't done it yet, think about doing it next time. And if you really want to support as well, please like, comment, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps. It's something that takes a few seconds, but really makes a difference in our engagement. So I appreciate it. Love you all. See you next time. Okay, so this podcast does not happen by itself. The magic takes a whole group of amazing people, and I want to tell you who those people are. So obviously I'm your host, Chavie. Our producer and creative director is Eli Ben-Chion. He keeps me on my toes. He makes sure that I just keep growing and am on point and don't miss a beat. He's the best. Audio is edited and mixed by Reed Seeley. Also, unbelievable. He's so cool, calm, and collected. You kind of need that working with me. And the music, which is beautiful, is by Basia Schechter and Shaul Magid. And this is totally unexpected.